Jen, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the podcast.
Lenny, it's starting to feel familiar and I like it.
I should have said welcome back to the podcast. So I actually shared on Twitter that you're coming back, and I had so many people ask so many questions. Clearly, there is a lot of confusion and a lot of need for learning how to get better at the stuff we're going to talk about, sales, enterprise sales. To frame the discussion, our first chat, which we're going to point people to if they want to start there, we focused on founder-led sales, which is essentially the beginning phases of a startup, kind of going from 0 to about 100 million ARR. This discussion is on the next phase, which is going from about 1 million ARR to about 10 million ARR in enterprise sales, not like PLG or anything like that. Yep. You have a bunch of really strong and counterintuitive opinions and piece of advice on how to be successful at this. So I'm just going to go through a bunch of these things. We'll see where it goes. Before we get into the first one, is there anything broadly, I don't know, is there anything broadly you want to share, anything you want to say before we dive in?
No, let's dive right in.
Okay. So the first thing that I haven't heard anyone talk about before is this point that you often make that the mid-market does not exist. People often hear about enterprise companies. There's obviously SMBs and startups. There's also people just like, oh, I'm going to go after the mid-market, somewhere between. You don't think that's real? Talk about your experience there, what people should know.
It's fascinating because if you ask someone to describe the mid-market, actually, if you ask someone to describe the enterprise, every single person has a different answer, right? It's either based off of revenue, it's either based off of market cap, it's based off of employee size. And I think a lot of people can get lost because selling to a 100-person organization is a radically different game than selling to a 1,000-person organization. And there's no like hybrid approach. So the best way to think about it is you have small business, which is typically can be really powered by marketing. And then you have enterprise, which is typically going to be sales-led. If you bucket them into these two very specific silos, it makes it much, much easier to understand what game you're playing. Now, when we talk about mid-market, I usually will say, are we talking about the upper end of small business or are we talking about the lower end of enterprise? And most people are usually saying the lower end of enterprise. And I say, great, know you're playing the enterprise game, know the type of people you need to hire, know the type of ACV they need, because it makes it a lot easier than trying to have this middle ground that catches everything that doesn't distinctly define SMB and enterprise. So I say the mid-market doesn't exist because what is a mid-market hire? It's either low-end enterprise or upper-end SMB. And if you bleed those two games, you're going to lose. They're so distinctly different. So that's kind of my theory on it.
You have this chart that you shared with me that will link people to where you kind of show the number of companies within each of these segments. And there's basically nobody in this kind of middle segment. Talk about that a bit.
That's right. And just like the power laws. I mean, if you look at the Fortune 1000 and then the kind of the lower end enterprise from there, it trails off so fast. Like power laws totally exist in these like large corporations, and and we can't be treating everyone the same.
This begs the question: where do you suggest companies start? There's obviously startups classically are just like innovators, move fast, can make quick decisions. Enterprises have all the money. Usually, the advice I hear is just don't go after the fancy companies to start because they take a long time. You don't want to screw it up. What's your advice on where to start for most companies?
The exact opposite. Early adopters are those logos because they have to continue to stay at the number one spot. So they'll take tons of, swings to continue to stay in the number one. Staying in the number one spot's the hardest part, right? So those number one logos are like, if you can give me just a slight bit of alpha, just a tiny bit, that's where I get promoted. That's where I get the pat on the back because we are the world's leader in our industry and we cannot be disrupted there. So there's this running joke where, not a running joke, there's this running statement where a lot of VCs will say, don't go after tier one logos, go learn down market or go learn from like logos that don't necessarily carry a lot of weight. The ones that carry all the weight are the ones that are willing to take a shot and want to help. Right? Because they also want to be a part of, they also want to be able to dictate the roadmap. Now it's the founder's job to decide what can be done and what shouldn't be done, but their voice takes you $100,000 deal into $1 million deal in a very short period of time.
Mm.
It will literally guide you there. So when someone says, hey, go after startups, it's just short sales cycle. Yeah, they're like that makes sense. I totally get that. It's very easy to define the decision maker. It's very easy, you have to go through procurement. But in the age of AI, where it's all about sucking the oxygen out of the room and winning the deal and getting your foot in the door as quickly as humanly possible before someone else tries to take that, you want to get to the enterprise as fast as humanly possible.
Just so folks understand what we're talking about here, when you say tier one, what's a good way to think about what tier one logos
Tier
are?
one is like your Walmart, your McDonald's, your NVIDIA, your Tesla, your ExxonMobil, your United Healthcare, the logos that like are the leader in their space. And, their job is to stay in the number one spot.
Wow. So your advice is, because this is very counterintuitive, this is exactly what you're here not to do. Your advice is go after like the Chevrons and the Mobiles and the Walmarts as a startup.
Because if you can get them, that's all the proof you need.
How do you approach finding someone? Let's just get tactical there. Just like say you're going after Walmart. I know this is like not like a 5-second answer, but just how would someone approach finding someone at Walmart to sell to?
First of all, make sure the founder's involved, right? Everyone loves talking to a founder. So like we'll start with, let's get the founder involved as fast as humanly possible. The second is you need to vision cast. You need to sell to a gap. Don't sell to a problem. There's a very big difference between problem selling and gap selling. Problem selling is highly specific, more technical than not. And it's the way that every salesperson is going to go about it. Find the problem and anchor to it. When you're selling to a leader, you need to be vision casting and you need to be selling an opportunity, right? Which is, they are here. Here's where we can take you. You know that image where it's like Mario, and then there's like the mushroom, and then there's like Mario on blast, and everyone's like, "Don't sell the mushroom, sell Mario on blast." Well, that's exactly what it's saying. It's about selling the opportunity. That's what gets the tier one logos excited, and that is the best thing for a founder to sell, selling the vision versus the problem, and also it's what gets them to want to take a swing. Who wants to take a swing because you can do some small problem? They're not going to go to bat for that.
What's an example of a vision cast in a company you've worked with, just to make this real? Like, what does it look like when you've done a great job?
We have an ability to deliver alpha, meaning we have information, we have data, we have a way of working that no one else can do or is going to unlock a new way of thinking for you, or an ability to deliver to a customer, or an ability to solve a problem. Right now, you have an ability to access this level of information. I have an opportunity through our resources or through this gated data we have access to get you much further upstream so that you can get information faster, sooner. It's kind of like the high frequency trading, that 1 second, they didn't do much. They didn't sell, we're doing fiber cable connectivity. We're giving you 1 second of alpha before everyone else. It's more of like that ability. And that's not problem selling. That's opportunity selling.
I like this phrasing of just giving them alpha. That's such a simple way to imagine what this should feel like. Mm-hmm. We'll link to that image you're talking about with the Mario. And
you know that image?
Yeah. And the person that made that image originally is Kathy Sierra, if you remember her. Do you remember? So there's this person, Kathy Sierra. She's from back in the day. This was a big, lesson she taught is you want to not sell your people on like a feature or product. You want to sell them on them becoming a superhero.
Yeah, that's right.
They are now a superhero because of the thing you've built for them. And so the vision here is here's how you become a superhero. Here's how this alpha will help you become more successful.
And that's why founders are so good at selling, because they naturally go to vision selling and vision casting versus a typical trained salesperson is find the problem, ask these questions, and it just kills the vibe. It just feels like you're talking to a salesperson, right? It's like, what's your script? And it's like, that's not vision selling. That's like playbook selling. And that in the age of AI, where a lot of it is about alpha, it's about speed, it's about getting access to information, it's about training data. And look at how the market's reacting to it, right? It's all opportunity, and it's all it's all about the alpha.
So just to make this more concrete for people, say I'm like salesperson at Cursor. What would be an example of vision casting? Like the obvious idea there is your team will be more productive. You'll get more done. You'll move faster than everybody else. Is that a big enough vision to cast?
I think it may be more of like you'll be able to actually hire the 10x engineers that you don't necessarily have access to because they want to be able to use this type of tool. It's about letting them get better, letting them get differentiated talent, right? Or that's probably more of what I would anchor to of like, this is the 10x engineers use Cursor. You don't. Do you want access to 10x engineers?
Like they won't even join your company if you're not using Cursor.
Yeah. Like think about it. There's so many people are so specific about what they're able to, especially technical folks. Like I'm not a technical person, but I would imagine that they're not going to go to, they don't like to go to these corporations because they're forced to use some like incumbent tools.
Going back to going after these larger companies, I asked your colleague Justin what he sees you do that most impacts the success that teams have with their sales process. And there's a bunch I'm going to touch on, but one is most founders are insecure about asking for large ACVs for charging, or the way he put it is most founders would rather get 10K deals than lose 9 and get one 100K deal. Talk about your advice there and what you see.
There are, in the very early days, people will discount till the cows come home because they think that's the way to get a deal done, right? The best clients are not going to do that to you because they like, that's like a qualification criteria, right? Which is like, if they're sitting there nickel and diming you being like, no, I don't believe it's worth this. I don't believe it's worth that. They're not fully bought in on what you're selling them. So when I say I'd rather get $100,000 deal than $10,000 deals, I'd rather have one rock star client that's going to help me figure out the next stage of where this is going than 10 or maybe 5 that are a good fit, 5 that are not. And I still have to serve those 5 that are not a good fit. And that's going to distract me. So this is why I love enterprise sales is they're not going to do the hard work of bringing you in if it's not critical. Or if it's not, when I say critical, it's going to impact them in a way that they're going to make it successful. That's what I love about enterprise sales. They have the resources to ensure that it gets implemented because in today's day and age, if people are not using the tool, you just get rid of the tool, right? So they're going to want to make sure whatever they bring in, what they go to bat for, remember, they go to bat once every 2 years, maybe once every 3 years. You've got to make it feel incredible. You've got to make it feel like they're going to be a superhero going back to it. Otherwise, what's the point? Because the way enterprises are structured is it is designed today to make it hard to buy because they want to make sure whatever you're bringing in, you really, really want. It gets rid of the mediocre, I think this would be good. And it gets to, this is going to change the way we work. It's going to impact our ability to capture some form of alpha, however you want to define that for them. And it's sticky because of that.
So your advice here broadly is don't pay attention to the smaller 10K-ish kind of opportunities for a bunch of reasons. One is it might be giving you a false sense of success and product market fit. 2, those companies are maybe not as innovative and won't lead you in the right direction. 3 is it probably discounts, just like your product and your pricing just gets thrown off.
Yep. And also like, you don't really get taken seriously for 10K. You get way more taken seriously for 100Ks. It's much harder to get a 100K deal done. And like an executive needs to be involved. I'd much rather have an executive sign off on something and spend 2 more months getting the deal done because that they are bought in. You can now ensure what kind of value do they want to unlock. And maybe you have an opportunity to turn them into a user, which to me in today's day and age, with our generation being the ones that are now the executives at these corporations, this is native to them.
Who is this true for? Is the advice here basically, if you're trying to build a successful B2B company, everybody should be aiming towards these 100K sort of deals? Is there a world where you can be successful with 10Ks for a long time?
If you have a super high win rate and a massive market, because all you have to do is reverse engineer the math. If you need to generate $100 million in revenue, how many 10K deals do you need? And the expansion on a 10K deal is in parallel to that, right? Where can you go? 10 to 15 if that's a 50% growth, right? Much easier to go to 100K to 500K because they want more bodies or they want more value out of you. For an enterprise, they'd love to get more out of an existing customer. You're already trusted. So it's also about, the type of company you are. If you're venture backed, you can't be selling $10,000 deals to the enterprise. You'll get killed. Or you've already lost the game because you're playing a small business game in the wrong sector.
Have you seen startups you've worked with succeed in that 10K, 20K bucket? Or is it really, really rare?
If they're going after the enterprise?
Yeah.
Yes. If it's the first 3 months and then after three months, it turns into a 50K and then 100K and it ramps up quickly, sure. That makes sense because you got your foot in the door and you can expand it exponentially in a healthy manner. I think that's fine. $10,000 a year, then going to 12, then going to 15, the math will break.
This is great. I feel like most founders listening to this are like, no, we're kind of in that exception. We'll be all right. 10K, we'll do 20K. That's crazy to consider 100K.
Yeah, the math will break. And also a really good salesperson, your commission on a 10K deal, you're not going to get a great salesperson. They're going to want to be anchored to like, how can I sell a $250,000 deal? How can I sell a $500,000 deal? That's the type of person you want.
And this is like a big part of this is a good lens to force you to build the product that you can sell for 100K, 500K.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is about playing that enterprise game. If you're trying to sell, you're a small business, if you're in the small business place and an enterprise company comes to you and is like, I like this, ensure that you structure it for an enterprise. Don't play the small business game with an enterprise company.
Talk more about that. What does that mean?
Let's say you're PLG and big company like Walmart comes to you and is like, hey, can we get access for 3 of our users? And they're like, this is so exciting. And then they sell them the small business pricing for 3 users to Walmart. Very, very hard now to go from those 3 users that you just priced them at in a small business way, turn that into 100K because now it's documented what they're actually paying for this. So you're stuck. You've kind of like anchored yourself to this price. Not to mention, like, how are you going to unlock the executive high level value so that you can get that, you can get that senior executive to buy in and stamp this as well. Otherwise, it's just going to be throwing it on the credit card. But like, again, you've just ruined your enterprise game because you're anchoring to a small business price. So this is why, like, when you bleed these 2 games, it's very, very, very dangerous because these are really smart companies. They're going to say, well, wait a second. I just paid $9,000 last year and now you want to charge me $90,000. Well, what's the step change in value? What's the 10x value I'm now getting? That's super hard to prove.
So the tip here is your initial price will really screw you if you get it wrong. And so obviously we're not going to give people the answer on their pricing strategy fully, but is the advice just charge more, or like what would you recommend?
It is, enterprise companies are very used to a land. When I say like the first initial contract, this is somewhere between 75K and 150K. Very used to that. In fact, that's probably where you want to start because you also want to understand where can you grow from this. Start contained. Don't say 150K and sell the farm. Say it's 150K. Here's who gets access. Here's the value we're going to deliver. And here's where we're going over time. You also want them to know here's what we plan to do roughly in year 2, year 3. I know it's hard to look that far out, but like plant the seed with them in terms of where this is going. If you come in at $10,000, even if they want to bring you in and want to spend 100K with you, they have to be able to defend that. And now they see a $10,000, it can get really messy, especially because a lot of them are using AI now to understand like contracts. So they're going to quickly say, oh, wait, you spent $1,000 with Lenny and now Lenny's asking you for 100K. Great. Just help me understand why or defend it.
I could totally see ChatGPT being like, this is interesting. Used to be
exactly.
1K, now it's 100K. What might be going on here?
Totally. But people don't realize, how, again, know the game you're playing and don't be sloppy about it.
So your advice here is really interesting. It's there's the land to expand. Expand is very important, but the landing may screw your expanding because it
Yes.
sets the wrong reference point.
1000%. That's exactly right. You said it better than I did.
And so you may see like like in theory, if you land a 10K, go to 100K, that's like an amazing NRR. Everyone's going to be really impressed.
Yep.
But you're saying people won't buy into that. It's going to feel absurd and wrong, and something's going on.
Unless it's defendable. All it needs to be is defendable. But who can really defend? That's very hard to defend a 10x jump. They're going to want to see 15x value.
Let's talk about design partners.
Oh yeah.
This is something most founders try to do. They find a few folks to work with to help them build the thing. What's your advice on when to start finding design partners, how to find design partners, what a good relationship looks like?
Design partners are incredible. They are the hardest logos to upsell, meaning go from design partner to full rollout customer. So like, don't expect these people to be your $1 million pipeline. Expect these people to be the guide to help you understand. Maybe design partners could be, a technology company in the Fortune 1000. So they're used to experimenting. They're used to technology. They were once a startup, so they get it. Those make really good design partners. Most of the design partners that I've closed are usually like technology based, right? They get it. And they also are excited about, advancing the org and also giving the team an ability to have that startup feel. So like, if you're a large, massive corporation like Stripe, right? Stripe doesn't get that startup vibe as much, like that 50-person startup vibe, but like this can be a gift to give them that lens and give them that voice and give them that like excitement that they, don't get as a larger company. But those are great types of logos to be, early design partners, because one, they want to make sure they continue to stay on that cutting edge. But two is they are, to try and build something without that guidance is really, really, really hard because they're not using it. So you need that user feedback, and you also need to tie that to the executive value, right? So it's actually a lot. It's very hard to do. But if you can come out of it and upsell a design partner to a full rollout customer, such a huge win for the market, for you, for your team, and also for your investors, because it's the hardest customer to actually truly convert. They've been it when it was messy. They usually got a low price point. But if you, again, frame it, say, listen, I would love for you to be a design partner. I want a little skin in the game to get you to put it. Here's where we want to go. And you'll get a discount because you were in it in the beginning, but I'm setting the framing. Here's where we want to go with pricing. Here's where we are today. You'll always have 30% concession in perpetuity because you were there with us on day one. So again, it's not about, asking for $10,000 and then not expecting that design partner to upsell and keep it flat, because there's no growth there. It's a flat, it's about getting that early design partner, set the framing, own the framing, and let them know where you're going. Again, $100,000 to these large logos, if they want it, it's very easy for them to get it in.
There's this really interesting underlying piece of advice of finding a company that pulls you in the direction that leads to success. A company that's kind of a visionary. Like there's like the obvious companies that everyone's always trying to get these days. OpenAI and Anthropic and Stripe, I think, is one. And any advice for just like picking the right early? What are signs that this is a company that will point you in the right direction?
I think they have to be part of a logo that is deemed, startup friendly, right? Or in that world. And then I think it's the person, right? Like, is this person excited to give feedback? Does this person buy into where we're going? Do they see this world differently like us? Are they in lockstep with the founder vision? Are they excited to use a tool that's janky? Because it is janky in the beginning, but they know that where this can go can be incredible. So I think it's really about the person and making sure that they're aligned for what they're getting into. And I think a lot of salespeople oversell it. I think that's a common thing that happens, right? And that leads to churn, that leads to frustration, that leads to sometimes just canceling the contract.
They oversell the initial kind of design partners.
They oversell everything. Yeah, design partner, or even full rollout. And it's so important to tell them, Here's where we are today. Here's what we cannot do, which is just as important. It builds trust. Here's what we will allow you to do in the next 6 months. Do you want to be on this journey with us? And it's really ugly right now, right? Barely anything exists, but like we would love your voice to be a part of it.
One of the biggest fears I think founders have is having a company basically build just for their use case, and then it ends up not being used by a lot of people. And so, like, how far do you go fixing their specific problems? Any advice on just how far to go with one company?
That is the founder's job. The founder's job is to have a clear vision and do not let anything delineate from that. It's important to take feedback in terms of what is the market's reality, but like it is the and this is why being a founder is so hard. It is the founder's job to interpret that, because a lot of feedback you get is this is the old way. They're responding this way because it's the old way of working. They want you to build this because it's that's how they're traditionally expecting to do that. It is not, here's where we're going. This is why we're not doing that. I hear you, but here's why we're not going to do that, because we're going to completely change the way you do this. That is the founder's job. And I think, we did a bunch of design partnerships, late last year, and there was a lot of feedback given, but the founder had such clarity with where he wanted to go that he was like 80% noise, 20%. Had I not asked this question, like I wouldn't have gotten that gold in terms of where they are today. And like, it's that 80-20 rule where 80% of what they're going to tell you is probably going to be not related to where you want to go or based off of the old way, but that 20% of like, oh, I did not think about it that way, that drives everything.
Have you seen a design partner pull a company in the wrong direction, just kind of screw their path? Have you seen that, or is that pretty rare?
No, I think that I don't think it's that rare, because we hear people complain about it all the time. But I think it's more of an excuse.
Coming back to this question of going after the enterprise versus SMBs, and again, early advice you gave is don't go in between. Either pick SMB, small company, which I know you said there's a million ways to kind of differentiate what this means, but what I guess I think of employee numbers like under some number over 1,000 is maybe enterprise. Is that like a good way to think about it? Just like,
yeah, I mean, it depends. Are you selling per seats, or are you selling based off of usage, or are you selling off of I think it also depends on the pricing model a little bit. I look at headcount too, because it's just such an easy way to think about it, because you can also gauge usage off that and a bunch of other things. But sometimes like the small companies, like I think we're going to see a lot more larger companies become smaller because of AI. Not like significantly smaller, but also like high margins allow them to experiment more too.
That's such an interesting point you're making there, that like the way we designate enterprise versus SMB may shift because number of employees may go down with AI.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So interesting. So where I was going to go with this question is, when people are deciding, I'm going to go enterprise versus I'm going to sell to startups, like YC companies are the typical example. They sell to their own YC batches. Any just broad advice of picking, okay, we go enterprise versus no, let's actually go startup?
I think it's about, and I read this somewhere and I wholeheartedly agree with it because I've seen it live. I think it's about like, what game does the founder best understand? Are they like an incredible marketer and have some like competitive edge for how they can like win a massive audience? I would say go SMB and marketing led. Or are they a bit more, really understand how large corporations work and really excited to deliver on $100,000 plus type of opportunities, or the value that they are building for is way more relatable to an enterprise versus a small business?
That is really interesting. I've never heard of it described that way. I think about Linear, which started very startup-y, and my take is they did that because changing the way you work is really hard. And their bet was like, let's start with companies and grow with them. And over time, that becomes the default. Any reaction to that?
I think that it sounds like that's a great way to work, because that's a technical tool, right? So that you also need to have the right infrastructure to sell, right? Like I think Slack and Microsoft Teams are still battling it out at the enterprise. I think it's also like how you plug in and how you integrate, and do they even have the right systems to support you? The thing with OpenAI and is like they didn't have to connect to anything.
Say more about that.
So like the value, people were bringing their own use cases to it, right? And it's not like they can ingest, and they built that. It's a brand new thing. And they started, I think, this is, someone told me this, so this could be hearsay, but I believe that they were already speaking to CTOs even well before they released, to help them explain where this is all going and get their buy-in. And it's much easier to get into the enterprise when you're like, we won't even touch your data. Won't even touch your shit. Just use it to solve problems. And then we can build trust and then start to integrate and connect the pipes. But like, part of the challenges with selling in the enterprise, they're like, all right, well, let's connect all your consumer data, and whoa, that's extremely risky. So you have to start small and low risk, which is like, hey, here's what is the subset of consumers that churned. Let's figure out how we could have made them happier, or whatever it be. So that data is lower risk. So again, it's also understanding your market and understanding, what their ability to experiment is.
It's interesting, this distinction between OpenAI right now and Anthropic. I don't know if you've been seeing kind of their growth. It feels like OpenAI is very consumer first, and Anthropic is more and more winning on B2B. I saw this chart recently where they're like overtaking OpenAI now on B2B. I don't know any reaction there of just like these two different approaches.
I don't, because most enterprises I'm talking to mention Gemini.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, or Microsoft Copilot. So I don't hear much about Anthropic, to be honest. So that might be more of like a small business startup-y, I don't know. Or it's a different part of the organization that's using it.
Yeah, that's a whole discussion about bundling right there, of like Slack and Teams, and then just Gemini just kind of coming in automatically. People don't have to adopt anything new.
Yeah, totally.
There's something else that you talk about that I love, that I don't think people talk much about, which is that enterprise sales is very creative.
Oh, yes.
Talk about that.
So I personally believe that small business sales is really I used to think it was more science than art, right? It was more like, figuring out what didn't work, running experiments, testing and validating, which I do believe. That's to get to like foundations. Like, where do we play? What do we want to do? Like that early 0 to 1. From 1 to 10, I think it's more of an art, right? Which is, how do I take my learning and how do I package it up where I own the framing? I can speak to very specific alpha. I can vision cast, and where I better understand the problem over time better than the market does. And it's all about deal crafting. They just need to feel like the value they're getting out of it is way more than the cost. And it's sometimes about giving away things that don't really cost much to you, but are super expensive for them. For example, hey, we're selling X tool. We can build out why specifically for you over the next year and integrate it, because I know that you would have spent X number of dollars on engineering resources, or you wouldn't have gotten an engineering head internally to do this. But we're just going to leave it to you. You got to give us a year to build it out. Again, you're not letting them sidetrack you too much. You're kind of containing it. We'll do that for you at no additional cost. That's huge value, right? Or, hey, we're going to run an event and we want you at the forefront of it. We want you to be a speaker. Huge value, right? So it's like all of these additional things that add value beyond just the product, but are all part of the product and the vision, right? Everyone keeps thinking the product is just what goes into their hand. The product is pricing. The product is the opportunity, the framing, and not letting them compare you to something else. And I know we talked about that on our first call, which is, as soon as you become a comparison, as soon as you become one of 3 that they're testing out, you've already sort of lost. It's all about differentiation, right? And it's all about, here's what you will be able to do tomorrow because of how we're going to serve you today.
So along those lines, it reminds me in our first chat, you actually made this point that I've never heard anyone else make, which is that services are a really good way to start getting into companies that were most founders here like, no, don't do manual stuff for the company. Build a product that you can scale. Your advice is the opposite. Actually start with sell services. Talk about that.
Enterprises, the number one thing they buy is services. They know how to do it. It's super easy. They do it all of the time. It's like the most consistent thing they do. It's their largest budget item, right? External resources, consultants, whatever. If they have a very immature way of understanding the problem, or they've never purchased technology to solve it to some extent, right? Either one, you are doing something that's never been done before, which is like, rare in today's day and age. Or they might just be like laggards on the journey. So you have to decide, is this someone you really want to be working with? And if so, selling them a service, even though the technology is powering it on the back end, is the fastest way to get your foot in the door. It's what they know how to buy. Now, the idea is that once you sell that service, once you get that foot in the door, then it's to guide them towards the product. Hey, you're spending so much here. Why don't we get you to come in and leverage the tool that's been powering this the whole time and move this more into technology serving you versus the human?
Wow. I think this will blow a lot of people's minds.
Palantir, this forward deployed engineer, that's exactly what they're doing, right? Like, there's a lot of companies out, like I'm sure OpenAI, and this is what someone told me, they were in and talking to CTOs and helping them better understand how AI and their organization can better work together. And it was them coaching them and educating them, whether they did it for free or not, I don't know, but they got their foot in the door, they started to build trust, and then it gets adopted.
This is the epitome of doing things that don't scale. That advice we always hear. This is like, okay, this is what that looks like. Like, we will solve this problem for you. We are using software to do it. And then over time, oh, you could just do this yourself. It'll cost you less. You can scale this.
Yep, that's right. And they don't even need to know at first that software is doing it. That could be the magic part, which is like, guys, we are literally doing this with our technology.
Today's episode is brought to you by Coda. I personally use Coda every single day to manage my podcast and also to manage my community. It's where I put the questions that I plan to ask every guest that's coming on the podcast. It's where I put my community resources. It's how I manage my workflows. Here's how Coda can help you. Imagine starting a project at work and your vision is clear. You know exactly who's doing what and where to find the data that you need to do your part. In fact, you don't have to waste time searching for anything because everything your team needs, from project trackers and OKRs to documents and spreadsheets, lives in one tab, all in Coda. With Coda's collaborative all-in-one workspace, you get the flexibility of docs, the structure of spreadsheets, the power of applications, and the intelligence of AI, all in one easy-to-organize tab. Like I mentioned earlier, I use Coda every single day, and more than 50,000 teams trust Coda to keep them more aligned and focused. If you're a startup team looking to increase alignment and agility, Coda can help you move from planning to execution in record time. To try it for yourself, go to coda.io/Lenny today and get 6 months free of the team plan for startups. That's coda.io/Lenny to get started for free and get 6 months of the team plan. coda.io/Lenny. There's a lot of talk these days about this idea forward deployed engineers, something Palantir was really famous for, just essentially an engineer sitting in your office solving problems with you, like basically as an employee. And then through that, they learn what software to build. Is that something you're seeing too?
Oh yeah, I think that a lot of companies, a lot of folks that serve the enterprise, they have a butt in a seat in their office. Like, you look at these large consultancies like McKinsey, they're not in their headquarters, they're in their client's office all the time. And the other interesting thing, and proof of this, is how many people go to a Deloitte or an Accenture and expect them to be a channel partner. This is exactly what this is all about, which is they sell the service, they come in, and then they introduce, hey, look at what this startup is doing over here. You might want to give them a shot. The problem with channel partnerships, and why I don't believe in them, is there are 100 of you on this list, right? And you're expecting them to sell it on your behalf. Biggest no-no. They're not vision casters. They're not visionaries. They're consultants. But it goes all towards like, go find, I remember startups saying, oh, I'm going to go, win over Accenture and then have them disseminate me into their clients. And I'm like, as if that's a workable strategy.
Okay. You know what might be helpful is let me try to summarize some of the best pieces of advice you've shared so far. And this is specifically for folks trying to go from about 1 million ARR to about 10 million ARR. And then I want to ask you just what's most different about those two stages, but let me share this first. So, advice one is go for tier one logos earlier than you think you should because they're early adopters. They can move fast. They can pull you in the right direction.
And they excite investors too.
Yeah, for sure. And other leads. They're like,
And yeah, and other, talent, future employees. Yeah, exactly.
So the counterintuitive insight here is you think they will move slow and be too busy, but they are actually the early adopters.
That's right. Yeah, they have to maintain that number one spot. And also all of the people that are in the number 2, number 3, number 4 spot all want to do what number 1 is doing. So it's also like pure referenceability too.
And the point about them being the early adopters, like the people that join the Stripes and OpenAIs and Anthropics are they individually love technology and love the latest stuff. So like as a human, they're like, oh, this is cool.
That's exactly right. I'm disagreeing with myself, aren't I? That's kind of funny, but yeah.
That's a good sign. So 2 is ideally try to price closer to about 100K, like 75 to 150-ish K is what you said.
Yep.
Most enterprises are used to buying.
Yep.
So instead of starting or even sticking with 10K, 20K for too long, you need to make yourself go towards 75 to 150K.
That's right. Yep. And if you were to sell a service, because I know we're talking about selling services first, prorate that over time. So maybe it's 10K a month. So they start to get used to what that pricing looks like.
So this is a way to make it feel, this is like how you get to 75 to 150K is there's a service attached to it. It's not just, here's my SaaS product. It's we will solve this problem for you. Our person will be sitting there doing this for you.
Yeah. Or it's the technology too. I mean, you can add the services. Let me take that back. The service, whether the services is bundled into it or not, some people will unbundle it. Other people will say the services is a part of it. But yeah, it nets out to 75 to 150K. That's right.
Okay. And you said that it's okay to start lower on ACVs and deals, but you need to push fast towards 100K, like over a few months.
Yes, that's right. Like if you can get into an enterprise for 10K in a month, which is not doable, but if you could, and you could go from 10K to 50K in 4 months through an expansion strategy, all game. That makes sense. But it's really rare and very hard to do.
And so there's 2 different paths there. One is land cheap and grow quickly. The other is move your ACV average up quickly.
That's
Seems
right.
like both are. The latter is probably the more common strategy. Is just keep increasing prices.
Yeah, because the former you can get tripped up because they could say, okay, now give me an economical price for doing this for 100 people, and then it all kind of evens out because now you're at the 100K deal anyway. But it's hard. There's more room for error, which is why I say go in and try to land 100K.
By the way, in our first chat, we talked a lot about the procurement process, which is what trips a lot of people up and is really painful. And I vividly remember that conversation still. So if people are having issues getting through the sales process and procurement, a lot of good advice there.
And getting stuck in procurement is usually because you're not speaking to a senior enough person and they don't know how to navigate it, which is why I'm like that executive needs to be involved. Because as soon as the executive picks up a phone and tries to get a hold of like their buying group, things move, right? Like when people say, oh, I'm stuck in procurement, I'm like, oh, that could just be a qualification error and you never get out of it because you sold to someone too junior. So that's why the 100K is such a safe zone because even for 10K, you might have to go through procurement. So this is like the surest way to make sure that like you don't, listen, I've seen 10K take 9 months to close.
No bueno.
Yeah, so.
Okay, next piece of advice is this idea of vision casting instead of problem solving. So the advice here is instead of here's your problem, here's how our product solves it, is here's how you will achieve alpha in the market by adopting the software. We talked about the example of Cursor, where if you adopt Cursor, you're going to draw the 10x engineers that are joining other companies right now. This will give you a big advantage.
That's right. And yeah, it's pain versus opportunity, especially in the age of AI. And I know that we're moving into the next dimension. It's all about solving for a gap. It's seldom about, solving for a very, very specific problem, because people are trying to figure out, what's our AI strategy? Where are we going to go with this? What is the world going to look like? I want to be a part of that new world. So it's a great time to be doing that.
And then there's a bunch of advice we shared. You shared about design partners, of just how to select them. Your advice is definitely have design partners, because they will help you build the right thing. But as a founder, you need to have a clear vision and sense of where you want to go, and not just build everything they're asking you to build.
That's right. Because it's important to say no, right? Like, and that's all part of the framing, right? Which is like, here's we want a little skin in the game. Like, you set the price, but here's what we're marching towards in the next 6 to 12 months. Like, are we aligned there? If we deliver on what we say we're going to deliver, are we aligned there? And do that kind of handshake.
Is there anything else that I missed that you think is really important for this stage?
So 1 to 10 is no longer the founder. Maybe the founder comes in very strategic points, but you need a really good enterprise salespeople, right? Taking someone from small business and expecting them to do enterprise sales, big no-no. It's a different game, right? Radically different game. You need to understand how corporations buy. You need to understand how executives think. You need to better understand simply just like what the enterprise business model is all about, and like their ability to take on risk. People will bring in like super junior enterprise sales reps. And I'm like, you're looking to sell to an executive, and you have this this person that's 5 years out of school with no corporate experience doing it again, where unless they have like some extremely, deep experience in the industry, or are just like a unicorn in terms of like, wow, this person can sell ice to an Eskimo kind of thing. A junior person converting an executive, again, if the founder's involved, maybe that's doable. But usually the founder can't be involved in every deal. And you need people that can, I always say, you need people that can cosplay a founder, right? Which is like selling the vision, getting them excited, like running through a wall to get the deal done, and getting creative on how. None of my deals look exactly the same. Every deal looks different. And that's okay, because every organization has slightly different opportunities of where they want to go. And you have to kind of build towards that. And the framing may change. So it's this ability to like adapt from what you're hearing and like let that compound over time. But like I always say, like, can this person cosplay the founder? I think that's the best type of salesperson, because it doesn't feel like sales. It's more of the art.
This is amazing advice. What is a common profile that you've seen be successful? Like, what level of seniority, what kind of personality, any traits to look for?
Maybe a former founder, if you can get that. Because they're used to selling, right? They've sold investors and they've sold employees. 2 is someone with no sales experience, but has deep product experience, or an engineer, and can like think about things in a unique way where the market's like, oh, this is so interesting. Taking a typical salesperson and putting them into a sales role almost always is where people get frustrated. The market, it feels salesy. Like the market doesn't want to be sold to, they want to buy. And I know that this is like this, it's very hard to hire a really good enterprise salesperson. Right. I mean, the number of people that I've interviewed, I can count on my hand the ones that I'm like, I get really, really excited by. It's almost like, coming across a great founder, right? It's like, it's not as common as everyone expects. And I think that that's true for engineering. I think that that's true for sales. And I think a lot of people, sales is like, oh, just throw a body into it. The product will do the work.
Advice I often hear is don't hire a kind of a senior VP of salesperson from a bigger company.
Yep.
Do you agree with that? What's like too senior?
Yeah. So the bigger company thing, the brand was doing all of the work. The brand built the trust. You need this person to be able to build the trust. And like they're usually, the product is still so new. The product is the founder in the 0 to 1 stage. The product is just starting to get like a case study. You probably have maybe a few references, but it's still very, very early days. You need the market to believe the salesperson, and you need that market to know that they're trustworthy. A VP of sales at a large company, I would say, They're best suited for a large company because 1 to 10, you're running through walls, right? You have to figure out, you're doing a lot of convincing, you're doing a lot of educating, you're doing a lot of creative deal crafting, a lot of owning the frame. It's not necessarily selling a product, it's selling that future value, which a VP of sales at a large company is, it's a very different, it's a different game. It's kind of like the SMB and enterprise.
It's interesting you said when you described the profile of a great hire here is you said they don't need to have done sales. If they have done sales, what's like a number of years or kind of like what do you look for that tells you, okay, this is a good fit for the first hire?
I actually think it's less about experience and more about the person. Like, does this person make you feel good? Do you want to buy from this person? I think Jason Lemkin said that best. Like, would you want to buy from this person?
Can they sell you a pen? The classic.
Yeah, exactly. Do they mimic or mirror the market they're selling to? Right? It's much easier to buy from someone that looks and feels like you than it does from somebody that's like, in a totally different realm. And also, like, an executive wants to talk to another senior person, right? They don't want to talk to someone that just graduated from college and is selling them the new way of working. Like, what do they know? So I think it's tricky. I would say, like, someone with no sales experience makes it feel different and special. That's what I like about it. Someone with sales experience knows how to navigate and probably qualify better. But it's almost like the blend of those two things. And that's why I go back to like cosplaying the founder, which is like, could this person like close a future employee? Right? Like, do they get excited about the problems they're solving internally and the vision that they get to sell to?
This actually was a reader question, a listener question from Twitter. So Peter Dedene asked, how do you make this first salesperson as enthusiastic about the product as you? Is there something you can do? Is it more just they already are and you just leverage that?
Incentives. Salespeople love to make money.
Easy.
So if they know it's possible, you'll be shocked what people can get done.
If they see how much they could make. Amazing.
Right.
I imagine there still also has to be an innate excitement about the product and the
they have to believe in it. They have to believe in the founder, but like incentives usually make the world go round. But yeah, is this person, are they asking the right questions to the founder? Are they, the best thing to do is have the founder join the first 5 calls. After 5 calls if this person has what it takes. And don't be afraid to fire. Like, 1 in every 2 salespeople usually are fired. It's a very very high failure rate.
Because you can tell pretty quickly how it's going.
You can tell, or the vision of the founders is just very wrong.
Speaking of incentives, do you have any quick advice on how to structure their comp? Just like how much they earn?
It's usually 50-50. So it's 50% OT, 50%. So it's 50% base salary, 50% OTE.
And then how much of the sale do they typically get? Let's say the first sales hire.
It depends on the the size of the deal. But in technology, it could be anywhere between like 8 and 12%. So rounds out around 10%.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. When do you hire the first salesperson? Is it around the 1 million ARR mark usually?
Yeah, it's around that 1 million ARR mark. And it's usually when you have your first 7 to 10 customers and there's some pattern recognition around it that you can share with somebody else. There's some consistencies. Otherwise, it's just like, that would be very hard.
Basically, as a founder, you have to figure out how to sell enough times so that you can show someone, here's what's working.
And this is the common thing I hear. Well, I'm a $10 million business. I'm like, in this small business space, you're $0 in enterprise. It's a 0 to 1 right now in enterprise. It's a totally different game. It's a different value proposition. It's a different deal structuring. It's a different target market. It's a different risk tolerance. It's totally different. So don't be blindsided when
it doesn't work.
There's a lot of unlearning that needs to happen when you move into a new market.
So the advice here is make yourself sell up until around a million ARR, especially if you're trying to go enterprise, selling to enterprises yourself as a founder, which is really hard. You have so much to do and you have to be selling this thing for a long time.
Yep. And
Okay.
then, try and find someone that like you get excited by. Like, it's funny. If you ask the founder, are you excited by your salesperson? I'm curious what the real answer is. It's like, well, it's a button, a seat, and it was hard to hire. So
Interesting. I
yeah,
remember, I think it was Jason's advice was to hire two people
that's
immediately
right.
so you
Yeah,
can compare them. Do you agree with that?
100%. Yeah, because of the 50% failure rate. I think that's exactly right.
Mm.
So yeah, even a tall order, go find two people that are good. But yeah, I think that's right because 1 and 2 will fail.
Okay, let me ask you another reader question from Hang Huang. This is kind of in a different direction. So he says the biggest challenge is always cutting through the noise to get that initial meeting with the right decision maker. How do you even get their attention?
It's the vision. What is the opportunity that you're selling? That if they are excited by that, they will take a call. I see it all the time. And don't give away the farm. Like, keep it to 3 sentences, right? Like, and this is, I know I said this on our first call, but like, say something counterintuitive. Make it feel different. Make it feel like they can learn from you by taking a 15-minute call, right? You see the standard stuff like, oh, I came across your LinkedIn and, you know, are you looking to grow your business by 15%? It's like that. What kind of statement is that?
So, and this is in the cold email they get this
Yes. Yeah.
pitch.
Yeah.
Awesome. So this is a good segue to another reader question from Hugo Alves, co-founder of Synthetic Users. He asked, "What's the best advice for going from healthy inbound to targeted outbound?"
Healthy inbound usually is a marketing-led initiative. So that's a marketing game. It depends like what deal value you're selling. Are you selling a $5,000 deal? It's got to be marketing led to make the engine work. If you're selling a $100,000 deal, you're doing outbound day one. So again, it breaks it into those. This is like that blending of I see a blending of that question. This is where are you doing small business, marketing led activities, or are you a sales led organization selling a $100,000 deal?
And the reason this is important, just in case it's not obvious, is you're not going to make money if you're selling. People are spending time closing deals that are making 10, 20K. Just the
Yeah,
ROI on that won't work for your
that's right.
business model.
That's right. Yep.
Awesome. By the way, let me just say, Jen, this is like an incredible conversation already. We've gone
Oh, this is awesome.
through so much. This is like exactly what I was hoping to get through. We've gone through so much advice that I think is going to be so helpful to so many people. There's a few things that your partner Justin also suggested I ask you about that I want to touch on. One is you have this question that you ask founders a lot that opens up their mind. You ask them, if you give your product away for free, would people even use this? And every founder's like, of course. And then you ask a customer this, and they're like, nah, we wouldn't use this. And that just blows their mind. Talk about just the power of that and how you recommend people approach this.
I always say, ask the questions you're afraid to, because that truth is going to get you closer and closer to the answer. So I'll ask a client straight up on a call. I'll say, honestly, do we think we're going to get the deal done this year? Like, is it possible? They'll give you the real answer. Like, and people are afraid to ask. But like the other side is sort of, if they're in it with you, they don't care about that question. Right? Can't ask that question on day one. But like if you are, and we didn't talk about this, but maybe this is important. Every single enterprise deal I have done, the deal is closed and pretty much done through text. It's not on email anymore. It is a relationship you're building with someone where if my enterprise client called me, I'm picking up that phone immediately or I'm responding them to immediately, because that builds so much trust. If they know they can call on you, they're going to get you to pick up, and they know that you're going to do everything humanly possible to make sure that this is successful, people will, turn over rocks for you. Like I have a client at a Fortune 10 company where I was like, it's so important we get the deal done this year. Like, is that possible? And she's like, it's a tall order, but like, if it's going to help you, let's do it. Like, these are how enterprise deals gets done. It's relationships. And it's this like, and this is why I'm saying like structuring the deal, make it feel like you went to bat for them. And in often cases, you are going to bat for them. And structure it in a way that makes sense for them. Everyone kind of just tries and pigeonholing, and deal structuring consistency is important for a $10,000, sub $10,000 deal. $100,000 deal, it very commonly will look different every time.
April Dunford was on the podcast, and she shared this really interesting insight that the reason people behave this way is the person at the company buying this thing, their ass is on the line also. Like their reputation is on the line for this thing to work out. So they want it to go really well.
That's right. Again, it's that one, they do this 1 in every 3 years, 1 in every 2 years, maybe 1 in every 5 years. Hell, I don't know. It is not they don't do this every year. It's very rare. No one likes a new tool. No one, not you, not me, unless it changes everything.
Yeah. Figma is a great example of that. Slack.
Everything you've touched.
Everything that worked out. You said that you ask these questions that people are afraid to ask. What are some other examples of questions you often ask that people are afraid to ask?
I will say, listen, this is a $150,000 engagement. I will co-author it with you, where we can make this a little bit bigger if you need something else. We can make it a little bit smaller in year 1, but in year 2, it steps up. Like, how do we get this done so when you go to bat, it's a win? They seldom do they like take it to the wrong side and like try and discount you. I've actually never seen that, because at that point you have a relationship. So co-authoring the pricing is so important, because they need to know that they go to bat, they can say, I got this out of them if we get this deal done. Right. So this is why, like, when I say every deal looks the same, you're asking great questions, because it's explaining kind of why I meant by that. But like, this is another example of like why every deal in the enterprise sort of looks somewhat different, because a lot of it is co-authored. So again, if someone wants a slightly lower price, give it to them, but maybe lock them in a little bit longer.
There's another point that Justin makes that you've touched on a bit, but it's when you hear no. The way he phrased it is, Jen always talks about how no is the best answer to yes, because no is data that you can use. Talk about that.
I am a qualification crazy person. I will not get on another call with someone because on the first call, it's either a yes or a no. There's no in between. Like, it is humans are like, we're so different and we're so unpredictable, but we're also so predictable at the same time, right? Like, it's very obvious if someone is excited and wants to do something. It is so obvious when someone is just trying to be nice. So I will say to them on that call, like, I'm sort of getting the vibe that this might not be a good fit or might not be good timing. Like, did I misinterpret that? And they will usually say, yeah, you're right. It's probably not a good fit. And then immediately, great. I would love to stay in touch. You've just saved a relationship and you've just saved yourself a ton of time.
And the implication here is just, to your point, you're limited on time. You don't want to be spending time going down a rabbit hole that won't get you anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to take a quick tangent on tools. What's kind of like the state of the art on go-to-market outbound tooling?
I don't use a tool because I believe in the manual. Okay, and I'll explain why. Yeah. Every single note I send is slightly different because like I see a picture of them and I'm like, oh, I don't know if that's going to land. Or I'm like, oh, they actually might appreciate this. It's weird. Like, visual cues are so helpful. A picture is a visual cue. You know, looking at how long they've been in the role, looking how long they've been at the company. I use all of these little things, and I seldom customize a note in a way that like people expect, which is like that first like customized sentence, because AI does that and everyone's doing that. So I go the opposite extreme, which is like remove it. And I customize it with how I frame it, or the subject line. Yeah. So it's like if I'm talking to someone like a peer, I might say like, quick question, like QQ. If I'm talking to someone that, you know, has a bit more experience, I might write a little bit of a tighter note, not all lowercase. So like, it just depends on who you're speaking to. And again, this is why it's okay to spend a little bit of time on this, because it's $100,000. It's actually $1 million at the end of the day, because $100,000 deal, if you play your cards right, turns into $1 million deal over 3 to 5 years.
I love how much you enjoy this. It's so fun to hear. So essentially, what are you doing? You're sitting on LinkedIn finding folks to ping, and then you cold email them one individually, manually.
It's so weird, Lenny. Like, I have no process. I kind of just go with like the vibe. Like, I'll read an article about Tesla and I'm like, they could be interested in this. Not because that article had anything to do with the problem I'm solving, but because I'm like, this feels like a good Tesla day. Like it's hard to describe. Like it's a very emotional thing for me. And not to toot my own horn, obviously, but like I've been successful in sales. And the most successful salespeople can't explain why they're good at it. It just comes to them naturally. It's just like an emotional thing. It's like the world's best founders. How do you be a good founder? It's very, very hard to define. How are you become a good engineer? Very, very hard to define. So like, I don't believe in like playbooks. I believe that like there's like a feel to it. Like I emailed like the chief legal officer at a hedge fund once, and he responded to me because I wrote to him on Saturday. I knew he wasn't going to be busy. I made it one sentence, and it was like tweaked for him.
Do you feel like this is going to be the way as AI SDRs just kind of take over and everyone's getting billions of emails that feel AI-ish?
Yes.
Mm. So I guess maybe speak more there. Just like is the alpha essentially just become human, don't automate as
and the
much as you
also
think
thing,
you should?
the thing about AI tools is they're all pulling from the same databases. So I'm like, I want to email someone not in the database that's getting hit by a million folks. I want to take a back door in, not the front door where everyone else is trick-or-treating,
And this is effective for very large deal, which is what you need to be doing anyway, because it takes a lot of time to do it this way.
Yep.
Interesting. So you're not like sitting in Clay, you're not like Apollo, I don't know, all those tools. You're just like finding people yourself.
Yep.
Do you start with a target prospect list at least? Just like, here's the companies that are the perfect fit for this and let's work through them?
It's all in my brain because I've been doing this for so long. I have in my brain, I'm like, these are my early adopters. These are who I'm going to go to after I close those logos because they get excited by those logos. So it's just like experience of like, you land, I don't know, you land a Walmart, you're going to go to, the rest of the industry and say, hey, we're working with Walmart, versus like you go to, some, lower end enterprise company and they're like, wait, what do you do? Like, I can't even comprehend. Like they're also the most strategic people. Some of the most strategic executives are at these tier 1 logos. That's why they're tier 1, because they've got like super smart, like really capable folks. They also extract the best talent. The best talent likes to experiment and continue to improve. So it's like, it's this compounding thing.
For someone that isn't Jen and has all this experience, say like their founder, they're hit $1 million ARR, they're just like, okay, where do we find our customers? Do you have any advice for coming up with who we should go after? Should they be using these tools? Should they be hiring someone like a Jen? Like, I know this is what you do for companies. So, one route is go hire Jellyfish to help them through this, but
the founder, I would say the founder, this is sort of in tune with them in a way. They just have to like find it. It's so weird to say. It's all VOT, and I hate saying it because it's like a commonplace thing to say, but it's like there's this thing about like flow, and it's like some of these brands are in flow with you right now, right? Like, you found this insight from somewhere. Who else? What's the next adjacent ring of people that like would buy into that?
And so what I'm hearing is just like pay attention to what's happening, what companies are in the news, what companies are doing interesting things, who are the kind of the early adopters in the market.
If it was just a database list and it was just about figuring out the right messaging and then, emailing folks, we would have known by now.
That's so interesting. Okay, maybe one more question. This again is from Justin. He shares that when you hit resistance, you never argue, you reframe. If someone says, we already have X solution, you'll agree and pivot and totally, X is great for this thing, but here's what we can do.
This is why it's sell to the alpha. Hey, listen, that problem you just described, you're right. You have a tool for that. We're taking you much further upstream with value. This is the opportunity I want you guys to have access to.
I love it. Jen, I've gone through everything I was hoping to get through. On the other hand, I feel like we could do another hour on all these things. I feel like we need to do
3 in
yeah, we need round 3 on the next phase and all the things that people want to dig further into. Before we get to our very exciting lightning round. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on or share?
This stuff is really hard. It's very hard. Like sales is also all about like learning very, very quickly from the rejection. The rejection is good because it's a forced learning and you never want to go through that again. But you have to be, I don't like to use the word cringe. Like you can't be afraid to, cringy is like, bringing your AI recorder into a call. Like that's cringy. But like sending 15 notes to people that you can deliver serious value to, like don't be afraid. And don't be afraid to like ask the hard questions. Be different. This is the whole game is about, oh, this feels different. That's what people want access to. And yet everyone commoditizes themselves. Like they try and mimic what everyone, they try and mimic, a forward deployed engineer. Just rename it. You don't have to use the same nomenclature. Everyone gets excited by the new because the new could be the next thing, the thing that changes it all. So that's why I'm always like, don't be better, be different.
An amazing way to end it. With that, Jen, we've reached our very exciting lightning round. I've got 5 questions for you. Are you ready?
Yeah.
First question, what are 2 or 3 books that you find yourself recommending most to other people?
I do Twitter accounts.
Oh, Twitter accounts to follow. Oh,
Yeah.
amazing. Okay,
Like
cool.
Lenny, the day I have time to read a book,
Period.
I would love to be reading books.
Cool. Twitter accounts to follow. Tell me.
Look, obviously you produce some of the best content, truthfully.
Appreciate it.
Like you get into the minds of people that like, they're not even giving this insight on Twitter. Who else do I absolutely love? Jason Lemkin. So for sales, Jason Lemkin is awesome. Awesome follow for sales. And also he had a great recording with you. So link to that because that was a great piece. I actually learned a ton from it. I love Gavin Baker. Super nuanced takes, like takes a lot of like obvious statements, but like shares a lot of the non-obvious insight. He's great. Jason Cohen. Have you ever had Jason Cohen on the cast?
Jason Cohen, a smart bear, Jason Cohen.
Yeah.
He's coming on the podcast at the end of the year.
Oh, that's awesome. What a great plug for him right there.
Yes.
Yeah, those 3 would be great. I know they're all men, but
great tips.
Yeah.
Next question. Is there a favorite recent movie or TV show that you've really enjoyed? I know you said you have time to read.
This is going to be embarrassing. Baywatch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
I'm watching the Baywatch channel. It's just so nummy. And it's like 90s classic. Baywatch.
Wow. I've never heard that one before. So this is original Baywatch with...
This is original Hasselhoff, David Hasselhoff.
Yeah, Pamela
Yasmin
Anderson.
Bleeth, Pamela Anderson, the original cast.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, deep cut. Is there a product you recently discovered that you really love?
So the number one thing for me right now is an app called Playground, which is the pictures of my toddler that they upload into the preschool. So I can get like the daily updates on like what's going on in preschool when he's not home.
Amazing. I need that. We get like emails and Google Photos. I would really love that.
There was another one called Class Dojo. There's a few of them, but Playground's the one that this preschool's on.
Love Class Dojo. I'm a small investor.
Are you really?
I am.
Oh, that's awesome.
How about that? 2 more questions. Do you have a favorite life motto that you find yourself coming back to, find useful in work or in life?
Yeah, be direct. Like cut the fluff. Like give me the give me the bullet, not the paragraph.
Final question. I was told that by Justin that you've never read a sales book. You've just learned to do this. If you were to read a sales book, if there was someone else out there that you look up to, you learn from, is there anyone else out there in the world of sales that you most respect?
I think Jason Lemkin has the strongest understanding of sales. His content is unbelievable. He speaks about it clearly and cleanly. I would say and as I mentioned, like unbelievable Twitter follow. I'm a big fan of his. I've actually learned a lot from him too. Like the 50-50 thing or hire 2 salespeople, he's spot on. Failure rate's actually probably higher than 50%.
I love that guy. And he's so like AI forward these days. He's just building. He almost took down Replit with his complaints was a whole news cycle
Yeah.
of how
And he's
Replit
super
did.
direct. Like sometimes he says things that are like harsh, but you're like, he's not wrong.
Love it. I got to get him back on the podcast.
Yeah.
Jen, this was incredible. This was everything I wanted it to be. I feel like we just leveled up all the founders that have listened to this in their ability to close. We're going to just curate all the economic value and a lot of happy VCs from all the sales that will be closed as a result of the advice you shared. 2 final questions. Where can folks find you if they want to either work with you or follow you online? And how can listeners be useful to you?
Twitter. Every new learning or mishap, I put right on Twitter. So it's like my personal diary, and super responsive on Twitter DM.
What's your Twitter handle?
It's double J, so JJEN_ABEL.
You did not make that easy for people to find you, but we
Yeah,
will
no,
link to it.
I know, I didn't.
And the J is from jellyfish. Is that where the extra J's?
Yeah, the
for?
double J's,
Okay.
and then also, well, someone else had the handle, so I was like, I need my
You
name.
gotta. By the way, just tell people what jellyfish is in case that might be helpful to them.
Yeah, so it's a consultancy that helps folks in the 0 to 1 stage. And now I'm at general manager of enterprise at State Affairs, which is basically giving citizens and corporations an inside peek into like what's actually going on inside the state capitol building. State policy has way more impact on you than federal policy. Federal policy is written more about.
Incredible. I've only recently learned that that's what you're doing these days, and that is super impactful and important. So thank you for your work there.
Even democracy.
No big deal. Jen, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Lenny. This was a blast.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. If you found this valuable, you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. Also, please consider giving us a rating or leaving a review, as that really helps other listeners find the podcast. You can find all past episodes or learn more about the show at lennyspodcast.com. See you in the next episode. Today, I am super excited to bring you a very special episode with Shreyas Doshi, recorded live at the Lenny and Friends Summit in front of 1,000 people in San Francisco. This is Shreyas' second time on the podcast. His first visit is the 3rd most popular episode of all time of this podcast, and I love that Shreyas was game to try this. In our conversation, Shreyas shares 3 questions, plus a bonus question, that he wished he'd asked himself sooner in his career. We talk about why product leaders are so busy, why the job is so frustrating, why it is so essential to build good taste, and also why you're probably not listening as well as you should be. This was so much fun. A huge thank you to Shreyas for doing this. If you enjoy this podcast, don't forget to subscribe and follow it in your favorite podcasting app or YouTube. It's the best way to avoid missing future episodes, and it helps the podcast tremendously. With that, I bring you Shreyas Doshi. Shreyas, thank you so much for being here, and welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Lenny, for having me. This is amazing.
I was gonna ask, what do you, we recorded our first episode, I think 2 years ago, and I was like in a tiny room in my house. I don't know where you were, but it was very not like this. Thoughts on the setup of this episode?
So first, the Lenny empire keeps growing, which is amazing to see. And second, as I was coming up here, somebody told me this used to be a car dealership. And I actually realized I purchased my car here.
What?
So crazy, only in SF.
What kind of car was this? Say more.
It was a Honda CR-V.
Okay. Wow. I'm told this venue is also used for Jimi Hendrix performed here, and Aretha Franklin performed here. So it's like Jimi Hendrix, Aretha Franklin, Shreyas.
There we go. That's going up on my Twitter bio soon. So.
Okay, so usually when we talk, you're full of ideas and you're full of answers. When we were preparing for this, you told me, I have questions. I have questions I want to ask.
You know, reflecting on my career as a PM leader over the years, there are some questions I wish I had asked myself sooner, but I did not. And I had the great luck of having a PM life full of suffering. And I have zero complaints about it. But as I look back, I feel like there are some questions that I wasn't, even if I asked myself some questions, those questions, I wasn't honest to myself about the answers. So that's what I thought I'd do, is kind of share the questions that I wish I had asked myself sooner.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay. This episode is brought to you by WorkOS. If you're building a SaaS app, at some point your customers will start asking for enterprise features like SAML authentication and skim provisioning. That's where WorkOS comes in, making it fast and painless to add enterprise features to your app. Their APIs are easy to understand so that you can ship quickly and get back to building other features. Today, hundreds of companies are already powered by WorkOS, including ones you probably know, like Vercel, Webflow, and Loom. WorkOS also recently acquired Warrant, the fine-grained authorization service. Warrant's product is based on a groundbreaking authorization system called Zanzibar, which was originally designed for Google to power Google Docs and YouTube. This enables fast authorization checks at enormous scale while maintaining a flexible model that can be adapted to even the most complex use cases. If you're currently looking to build role-based access control or other enterprise features like single sign-on, skim, or user management, you should consider WorkOS. It's a drop-in replacement for Auth0 and supports up to 1 million monthly active users for free. Check it out at workos.com to learn more. That's workos.com. This episode is brought to you by Paragon, the developer platform for building native, customer-facing integrations with third-party apps. Are native integrations on your product roadmap? Whether it's to ingest context from your users' external data and documents, or to sync data and automate tasks across your users' other apps, integrations are mission-critical for B2B software products today. But building these integrations in-house cost an average of 3 months of engineering, according to the 2024 State of Integration Survey, which results in difficult roadmap trade-offs. This is why engineering teams at Copy AI, AI21, and over 100 other B2B SaaS companies use Paragon, so they can focus their efforts on core product features, not integrations. The result? They've shipped integrations 7 times faster, all while avoiding the never-ending maintenance that comes with rolling your own integrations. Visit useparagon.com/Lenny to see how Paragon can help you accelerate your product's integration roadmap today and get $1,000 in credit on their Pro and Enterprise plans. That's useparagon.com. What's the first question?
Right, so let's see. The first question is, why am I so busy? Why am I so busy? And the background is that, like, I have spent most of my career just being completely stressed out, just absolutely stressed out every day. And there were many reasons for it, but one of the core reasons was I was always super busy. And there was always work I felt like I couldn't do, that I wanted to do. And so I would go home at the end of the day, and even if I'd worked hard, I'd just feel dissatisfied. And so that was a constant fixture of my life as a PM leader. And it's only, so I did like I did product work for about 20 years before I started this new chapter of my career. And I think I only fixed it in the last 3 or 4 years of my career as a PM leader. But that means that there were about 16 or 17 years where I was just incredibly busy, and because I was incredibly busy, I was extremely stressed. And even though I was doing a good job, I was not feeling very good inside. And then that showed up in my body, like all sorts of pains and aches, I realized were actually not physical pains and aches. They were pains and aches from the stress.
It's like health issues that you had.
Yeah, minor stuff. So, relatively minor stuff. But, like playing tennis and you pull your back muscle and now you are horizontal for 3 days, doesn't feel good.
Who here is very, very busy and is just way too busy? Raise your hand. Oh.
That's it?
Yeah, I know.
Whoa.
Everyone's like, oh, I know everybody. Yeah. If you're like, yeah. I don't have to raise my hand. I'm busy. Yeah. Okay. Keep going.
Yeah, and so here's the thing. When we talk about being busy and managing your time, energy, all of that, I mean, this is a group of senior product people, so you all know the tips and techniques, right? Like maintain a to-do list. I found the LNO framework very useful for me, which I've shared before. I used to like working out of a calendar, those types of things. And I think you're all familiar with those things. But what I wanted to call out is that at some point in our product career, we reach an immovable force that will just overwhelm us, no matter what we do. And that force is scope. Okay, so as we grow in our product career, our scope grows. And we kind of like that, which is all great. But at some point, if you haven't already gotten there, many of you have, but for those of you who haven't, you will get there, where your scope will be so large that no matter what you do in terms of efficiency, whatever framework you use for prioritization, whatever framework or tool you use to manage your to-do list, whatever tools and techniques you use, whatever prioritization you do, your scope is so large that you are still going to be incredibly busy. Right? And so that's what I faced. Like I was saying, for the first about 16, 17 years of working on products. And only in the last 3 or 4 years was I able to kind of find some answers on sort of how to deal with that scope. Right? And so perhaps we can talk about that. What do you think?
Yeah, so you're basically saying there's all these productivity tricks, ways to do more faster, and no matter how many of these tools you've got, you're just going to take on more and more work, and they'll peter out. I'll say many of my most popular newsletter posts are, here's productivity tricks and tips.
Right.
And so people are always looking for these, and I'm curious to hear where you go with this, of just like, that is not the answer long term. There's a different approach.
Yes, and so the challenge is the following. How many of you are going through some kind of annual planning right now, or you're planning on going through annual planning, please? Everybody loves annual planning. Great. So let's take annual planning, right? If you are like a high-level manager, leader within a company, what is the typical kind of, what does your month look like? Or in some cases, unfortunately, what do your 2 or 3 months look like when you're going through annual planning? Right? It's all these kind of like spreadsheets to fill out and meetings to have and dependencies and priorities and stakeholders to meet and so on, right? And so I noticed, for instance, that at some point that was making me like really busy. And then that was making me feel guilty now because I had my like team to look after and to support. And then I had, product decisions to make and various other things. And I've gone on some planning retreat or whatever, and there you go. You lost 4, 5, 6 weeks. Like, does that sound familiar to folks? Like, yeah? Okay, so I noticed that I needed to change that at some point, and actually found a solution. Again, late in my career, but I found a solution because I asked myself this question, which is, why am I so busy? I'm doing all the efficiency things. I'm managing my to-do list like a champ. I have my calendar set up just right. I have my routine set up just right. I'm working out so that I'm engaged at work. I'm productive. I'm doing all of that. Why am I so busy? Oh, it's planning season. And that is supposed to take up 4 to 6 weeks. And this was at Stripe when I encountered this. So that is supposed to take up 4 to 6 weeks. Well, I realized that you don't have to do that, right? And so at some point in my time at Stripe, what I realized is the following, right? Like we go through a whole kind of all sorts of, just rituals around planning for 4 to 6 weeks. Then we emerge and we share our plan with our executives. They ask us some, the questions they're going to ask, like if money were no concern, what would you do? What is your ambitious plan? So if we gave you 5 more engineers, what would you do? What other things would you include in the roadmap, right? Like the standard stuff, right? And so you emerge, you do your presentation, and then you publish the plan, and then you start the new year with a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of excitement, and January goes fine until you get 3 customer escalations for features that were not in your plan. Right? And so now you try to figure out how you're going to revise resources. You go talk to some dependency team that's going to sort of, support these new features from these customer escalations. And you go through that process and you revise your plan again. And then usually by the time it's last week of February, everybody's forgotten the actual plan, right? And now we are executing off of like some other, list somewhere, right? And by the way, when you mention this at times, politely, of course, you might mention like, I'm noticing we are not actually like really using the plan that we spent 4 to 6 weeks minimum doing. And then some smart person in the room chimes in with, plans are useless, but planning is everything. Okay, I don't know, Eisenhower, somebody else, I don't know who said this. Plans are useless, but planning is everything. Nobody knows what it means. Nobody knows what that means, but everybody appreciates, plans are useless, but planning is everything, right? So I went through a few years of this. And then I go, you know what? I'm going to bend some rules here. And so what I realized, Lenny, is you don't have to go through these 4 to 6 weeks. And it was an accident. Basically, what happened is around that time, the product I was working on, Stripe Connect, that was it's like a major product for Stripe, major business for Stripe. And I had put together a product strategy, like a real product strategy for this product. And so this must have been like earlier in the year. And so now planning season came along, right? And the interesting thing I found is that because I had a real product strategy, not one of those fake ones, a real product strategy that I had gotten alignment on with everybody, my planning for this major product for Stripe took me like 3 days. Right? So while a lot of my peers, unfortunately, for their own products were in this like 4 to 6 week cycle of like planning and meeting and blah, 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 I just put it all together in three days, right? And whatever artifacts were needed, I put them together. I did not fill out some templates. That's where, it's about bending the rules, because if a template doesn't make sense, why should I fill it out, right? Like, there's no need to fill it out. And so that's when I realized that actually, if you have a real product strategy, a real one that everybody is aligned with, that you have got pre-alignment on, then a lot of this nonsense we tend to do with annual planning actually goes away. Mm-hmm. Now, you still have to do some resource allocation and all of that, but even there, you don't need that false precision. Like, how many of you have gotten into arguments about, so should it be 8 engineers for this team in 2025 or 9 engineers for this team in 2025? Like, who cares? We all know that even those numbers that we set up, we don't actually follow through on them, right, as 25 happens. So that's just an example of where we spend a lot of time on things that we think are strategic, that we think are important, but actually we ought to spend that time on other much higher leverage things. Right? Now, it does require some upfront work, in this case, upfront work on a clear product strategy that everybody understands, that everybody is aligned on. But frankly, if you have that, planning should be a breeze.
So what would be your kind of tactical tip for folks that want to do this better? I know there's like probably a billion examples of these sorts of things you shared, so planning is an example. Folks that want to be less busy, maybe on that one, is it give yourself very little time and focus on strategy and let that be the plan, basically, versus like every single person and their roadmap for the next 6 months? Like, what's the piece of advice you'd share there? And then I want to move on to the next question, because I want to make sure we get through all these questions.
Yes. There's definitely a specific tip, which is if you do have a strategy, that will make a lot of your prioritization problems go away. It will make a lot of planning problems go away. And even if you do have some escalation from sales, which you will, or from support or somewhere else, you now have at least a more rigorous framework to kind of figure out what to do with that escalation. So there's definitely that. But I think the other thing I want to share is that, and this was my other realization as I asked the question, why am I so busy, is I realized that I am so busy because I'm not making good product decisions. Okay, now you have to understand, by this time I'm like, 15 years into building products and whatever, 11 years into being a product manager. And so I think I'm pretty good. Like, that's my kind of sort of self-image. But then, if I'm being honest to myself, I'm not making as good product decisions as I can. So can I share an example of
Please.
that? So what I noticed is that you have a meeting about some product feature that somehow is requested or is really important, whatever the case might be. And so you have a meeting with some stakeholders and your engineering team, designers, etc. And then you're trying to decide, should we build this or not? And somebody says, you know what, like, why are we making, like, why are we doing a meeting for this? I read somewhere, or I heard Bezos say, that two-way doors, you should, like, it's a two-way door, you quickly make a decision. Like, just quickly make a decision and move on, okay? This is a two-way door. And so you say, yeah, that's right. Like, and anytime we hear something like that, two-way door, like, oh, that person's really smart. Like, so I want to be like them. So I noticed that myself and my team, we were making these kinds of decisions without actually thinking through, like, very clearly thinking through customer motivation, very clearly thinking through differentiation, very clearly thinking through a distribution approach for whatever this feature is. And while it sounds like, oh, of course you should be doing this, I guarantee you this is not how most product teams work, right? Like, they're talking about, well, is Bob, the engineer, going to be free? And when are they free? And if they are free, then let's build the feature, right? Like, that's kind of how a lot of product decisions happen. And the challenge here with this kind of approach, and again, this is what happens in practice. I'm not talking about whatever theory you read. This is what happens in practice. So when you follow this approach and you assume that, oh, this is a two-way door, we can kind of kill the feature, right? In reality, it doesn't work out that way. Because here's what happens in reality. So in reality, you commit to the feature, and it's going to take 5-6 weeks to do it, and then a couple more weeks to make sure to ramp it up, etc. Right? And so now the feature is out, right? And now you have your Q1 QBR, right? Say 2 months from now, you have your Q1 QBR, right? And you're going to present your business review, whatever. You're going to present what you did, what did you do last quarter, how are your ships performing from last quarter. And so now it's time to talk about this feature, right? At the QBR, because you have to kind of share that. Now, as you start talking about this feature, the CEO will ask, so yeah, we launched the feature. I'm very glad we launched this feature. How is it doing? Right? And you want to be able to say, you are the PM leader, you want to be able to say something smart and something that makes you look competent, right? But the challenge is the feature hasn't had much adoption, right? So I'm not going to ask anybody to raise hands, but I think most PMs are familiar with this conundrum, right? And of course, we are verbally very agile as product leaders. So what we say is, we don't have data, so we use favorable anecdotes, right? And so we say, yeah, we launched the feature, and you know what? This customer from this company really loves the feature. And we put in an anecdote, right? It's like a life-changing feature. It doesn't matter that they're the only person using it. That doesn't matter. Life-changing feature, right? We use data when it favors us. We use anecdotes when it favors us. So anyway, so we present that. Now, we do have the sales counterpart in the room, too, our sales counterpart. And they say, you know what, though, we're still not winning many deals because of this feature. And so, of course, the CEO asks, like, so what's up? Like, why aren't we winning deals, even though we have the feature? So the people on the customer side usually will respond, well, I'm glad we have the feature, but it's not full-featured yet. We need all these other bells and whistles to meet the table stakes, right? So now what happens? Somebody uttered the word meet the table stakes. Now it's over for you. Because now the only response you can give is, oh yeah, that's already part of the plan. And now you put your engineering leader on the spot and you say, Alice, isn't it? Like, haven't we allocated engineers to it already? And so now Alice has to come up with some response, which is like, yeah, Carol and David are going to work on it. It's slotted for one of these sprints, right? And so now you exit the QBR, you high-five each other, well, good job, team, great job, et cetera, et cetera. But now you have signed up for even more work for a feature you should not have built in the first place. That's where we're busy, right? So, and like through a product leader's life, what happens is we just accumulate all of this debt, right? Like feature after feature. So I guess what I'm saying, Lenny, is one of my other tactical tips would be sometimes it is useful to pause for 2 minutes or 2 days or 2 weeks before making that decision, right? Because frankly, most doors that look like two-way doors are actually one-way doors. They are two-way doors at Bezos' level. But as a PM leader, for you, they are one-way door. And that's what's making you busy.
Wow. I feel like you're a stand-up comedian / product manager. That was incredible. This episode is brought to you by Vanta. When it comes to ensuring your company has top-notch security practices, things get complicated fast. Now you can assess risk, secure the trust of your customers, and automate compliance for SOC 2, ISO 27001, HIPAA, and more with a single platform, Vanta. Vanta's market-leading trust management platform helps you continuously monitor compliance alongside reporting and tracking risk. Plus, you can save hours by completing security questionnaires with Vanta AI. Join thousands of global companies that use Vanta to automate evidence collection, unify risk management, and streamline security reviews. Get $1,000 off Vanta when you go to vanta.com/Lenny. That's vanta.com/Lenny. I know it's Spotify. I heard one of their core values is talk is cheap, but it's the virtue version of that. It's like they actually prefer to talk more. And I think that's exactly what you're saying. Basically, spend more time on these things that seemingly seem just like small little ideas and experiments.
Yep. Thinking is cheap, so you should do more thinking, not less.
Amazing. Shreyas, what's your second question?
Yes. So my second question, I have to get the words right. Do I actually have good taste? Do I actually have good taste? Is my second question. Yeah. And, for me, I asked this question after, again, all of these things. By the way, everything I say, I have been that guy, I've made that mistake, right? So that's why, I just have to admit to myself that, yes, I've made these mistakes. And one of the mistakes I made, this was when I was at Google, and I was kind of relatively new to product, about less than 5 years. And at Google, there's some parts of Google where you would be told as kind of like a early career PM that we don't do strategy here. Strategy is for MBAs, okay? We are all about execution, okay? So I'm in this environment, I'm naive, and I look around me and I'm like, Google is the most successful company on the planet at the time. And they are saying this, and I'm hearing this consistently, so it must be right. It must be right. And so I start saying it, right? I start saying, oh yeah, execution is everything, and we don't do strategy around here. And I even remember, there were not that many PMs, but there was a PM at Google who was kind of like the same level as me, but he just had much more wisdom than me. And he was trying to nudge me into, I was managing a product, and he's like, Shreyas, what is your strategy here? And I was like, I told him the same thing. Oh, no, what are you talking strategy? We don't need strategy. We just need to get shit done, right? That was the thing. And And so I kept repeating that mantra until I got to Twitter. So this is Twitter right after their IPO. And I saw Twitter had like an incredible asset, which is the product and the network effects. It had other incredible assets, including the brand. It had other assets that were great, including the talent. And yet this company was struggling. Like the product was struggling. And even if it wasn't struggling, it was making a lot of money. But the point is, it was not meeting its potential. So that's when I realized, and it wasn't like some sudden realization. It took me like 6 to 9 months of being at Twitter. This is circa 2014. That's when I realized that, oh my gosh, Twitter's biggest problem is a product strategy problem. The reason they are struggling is they don't have a real product strategy. Now, of course, attempts were made to create a product strategy, but it wasn't a real, compelling, cohesive product strategy. So that's when I realized the folly, right, of like, oh, wait a minute. I was at Google 6 years. I spent like most of those 6 years kind of saying like, strategy is useless. There's no point to strategy. Execution is where it's at. And I'm like, no, actually, I was wrong, right? And that got further solidified as I went to Stripe, and I was kind of now growing like earlier stage products and kind of trying to make them, highly, highly successful. I saw an even greater kind of value and importance of having a clear strategy. And so that made me realize, basically, we talk about taste, right? Like we all talk about taste, and it's about the beautiful pixels and the perfect product and the whatever else, right? Like the Steve Jobs-esque passion and all of that, whatever it is. And yes, taste is about that. But I think there is something that we as product leaders, and certainly I did, needed to recognize about taste as just a factor in pretty much everything we do, right? Which is like, do we have good taste around the beliefs we choose to create within ourselves as product leaders? And then those beliefs end up dictating everything we do, right? Including how we manage, how we lead, how we make decisions. And so it's that taste I'm talking about when I say, do I really have good taste? And when I asked myself this question, and again, I had to be I really had to dig deep. It wasn't easy. But at some point, I realized that, no, actually, I don't have good taste. I don't have good taste in how I choose to evaluate things that come my way. Again, not in terms of the product, right? Because by that time, I had skills to say, well, this should not be a 2-step flow. This should be a 3-step flow, whatever the case may be. But I still did not have good taste in terms of how I choose, what are the things I choose to believe. How do I learn? Who do I learn from? What content I learn from? What content I resonate with? And then I went on this journey to kind of like try to develop that better taste.
What I'm hearing is people focused maybe too much on the output, like the experience, user experience design taste, versus what they choose to take in as informing their taste, and what they see as an example of great and correct. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and look, taste is about the ability to identify what is really good without needing to see its results. Right? Because, look, it requires zero taste right now for anybody to say, oh, that CEO of NVIDIA is a genius. Right? Jensen is a genius. If you are saying that in 2024, it actually requires zero taste because you can just look up NVIDIA's stock price. Like, it requires zero skill. But to be able to say that in 2010, you have to realize Jensen Huang didn't change much between 2010 and 2024. Right? So like, Lenny, even in sports, right? Like there's this, there's this saying, game recognize game, right? And that's about taste. But what we need to understand is it's game recognize game before the game is called. Right? Like game recognize game in the practice session. Because it takes no genius right now to say, well, Patrick Mahomes is like, great quarterback, right? Like, or Virat Kohli is a great cricketer or whatever else, right? Like, it requires no genius to do that. It requires zero taste. So I also believe some of us, like, especially as we get more senior and we get more successful and, we just like get a lot more scope and responsibility and a lot of accolades, we become these tough graders, right? Like, I don't like anything, right? Like, this is crap, this is crap, this is crap. Again, that requires zero taste. Anybody can say that, right? Anybody can just say everything is horrible, right? So I do think there is something about being able to understand that, and I think there's like I'll share some examples, right? Like this two-way door thing. So let me just share a few observations, if I might. So like the first one is we get overly excited about cool metaphors. Okay, like one-way door, two-way doors. Right? There's some guy, I don't know who it is, I just read somewhere. There's some guy who had written a blog post about this idea, but he called it reversible and irreversible decisions. Okay? And it was the same idea. And I think somebody was lamenting that did not catch on, reversible and irreversible decisions. But what caught on is two-way door and one-way door. What's the difference? The only difference is you got attracted to the catchy metaphor, right? And the other one is the authority bias because Bezos said it, right? Take another example. We get very impressed with alliterations. I'm serious. We get very impressed with alliterations, okay? So how many of us love fail fast? Fail fast? Okay, nobody's going to raise hands now. Okay, fine. Maybe you truly don't love fail fast. How about fast follow? How many of you love fast follow? Like, let's consider that, right? Like, fail fast. You're going to fail fast. What if that thing were called fail quickly? It's the same meaning. Do you think you would be as attracted to that idea if it were called fail quickly?
No.
Probably not. So what changed? The only thing that changed is one is an alliteration. Right? So I see this in everything. Like, let's see. The other one is we also get very impressed with complicated charts and math we don't understand. And some of you product leaders who are at the top of the game, you actually use this as a strategy, right? So as I realized that, here's the outcome. Here's the outcome of kind of like that, asking myself that question was that what I realized is I kind of, everybody says, oh, I'm a first principles thinker, like, I think like I'm a rigorous thinker, whatever. But I realized that, like, if I really want to be that, I have to shed a lot of these, like, just patterns that were just, like, built in me, right? And I kind of have to evaluate the idea separate from all of its, like, social proof and authority proof and whatever else, right? And that ended up being a meaningful change in my growth as a product leader. Because the moment I started shedding these kinds of social proofs and authority proofs and all of that, it just made me we all again think we are critical thinkers, but we are not, right? So it made me a more critical thinker.
I want to move on to the next question just so we can get through some of these questions. Before I do, can you just show people your notes real quick? Just like show it like from a distance. This is how Shreyas plans for something like this. There's like color coding. I wish I understood what was going on there.
This is my, people ask me, what's your favorite note-taking app? It's a common question I get, and I say this, right? Like, it's a $5, like, I guess the pen costs $3, and I think the Office Depot clipboard costs
Wait,
$2.
isn't that pen? Does it have the different color clicky thing?
Yes, yeah.
Oh my God.
The big, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
This is great.
That's going to be another podcast episode. Okay, so we want to try to do 2 more questions. We have 6 minutes left. The last one's a bonus, so maybe we touch on it briefly. Mm-hmm. Shreyas, what's your third question?
So my third question is, why does my job feel so frustrating? Why does my job feel so frustrating? And it goes back to the point that, like, you know, I loved my PM leadership job, right? Like, I just absolutely loved it. And I think looking back, I would not have exchanged it for anything else, any other experience. That said, there were daily frustrations. There were daily frustrations in that job. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that, you know, the PM leader's job is extremely lonely. The PM's job, the PMs on your team, their job is also lonely, but a PM leader's job is further lonelier, right? So there's that. There's also, you know, what I learned at the time when I started asking this question is that our jobs get frustrating when we behave most of the time in misalignment with our superpowers and who we truly are at our core. Okay, so for me, as I was evaluating that question, it's like, why am I getting frustrated every day? I love the job, I love the macro, but I do not like the micro. And so why is that? And that's when I actually, like, there's, you know, a simple framework that I've shared, which is you can be doing your work at 3 levels. Product work happens at 3 levels. There's the impact level, there's the execution level, and there's the optics level. My epiphany as I was kind of exploring this question was I have a preferred level at which I like to operate. But if most of the day and most of the week and most of the month, I'm forcing myself to operate in not my happy place, in my non-default level, that makes me very frustrated, right? So many product leaders, their happy place is the execution level. You know, in my case, my happy place is the impact level. So that is fine. Your happy place can be whatever level. It doesn't matter. But the point is, like, as you go, you know, as you go higher up in the corporate ladder, no matter what kind of company it is, you are now going to have to spend a lot of time on optics, at the optics level. And I have willpower, I have the skills to do it, I have all of that. So it's not about willpower or skills. But willpower is finite, right? So as I spent day in and day out, like just like mostly doing optics work, I realized I was not happy and I was getting frustrated, right? And so that's when I realized the solution, which is I have to abandon the traditional path. That like, oh, after this level, I'm supposed to do this, and then I'm supposed to do this, and then this is what society expects. This is what my mom expects. This is what will people say on LinkedIn when they see my LinkedIn profile, right? Like, oh, he has this progression, this, and then what, stopped? Why did it stop? Right? So when I realized this, I said, you know, like when a team grew to a certain size, so when I was at Stripe, when I realized this, when the team I was managing, it had a fan out of about 50 people, so this includes like engineers and everything, I said, this is enough. Because for me, like anytime a team goes to like 50s and 100s and beyond, it is a law of corporations that you're going to have to spend a lot of time at the optics level. Right? So instead of just pushing through against like, you know, who I truly am, what did I do? I just went back to more of an earlier stage product, right? And then I was fine with like, you know what, I'm not going to like, just play the corporate game as an example. So I guess my suggestion would be like identify your superpowers. And like Shakespeare said, like to thine own self be true, right? Like just be honest to yourself. Like operate your career and make your career decisions not out of expectation, not out of envy, like the LinkedIn envy of like, oh, this person is at a different level. We both went to the same grad school. They're like, so I got it. No. Identify your superpowers, because if you identify your superpowers and work in accordance with them, you will do the best work of your life, you will love it, and you will be great at it, and you won't have that frustration.
I wish we had an hour for every single one of these questions. I feel like there's so much more to get into. We have 40 seconds. Do you want to touch on your last question, or do you want to leave that for a follow-up discussion?
Let's touch on it.
Okay.
Let's touch on it.
We got to go, though, in 30 seconds.
All right. My last question is, am I really listening? Okay. And this is perhaps the hardest one for me, because I thought, of course, I'm a good listener because I listen, then I recap, and I make eye contact, and I tell them this is what I heard and all of that nonsense. I realized there is an entirely other level to listening, which once you understand that there's an entirely other level to listening, that is what enables you to be a world-class leader. And so that is what I guess my last takeaway is like, ask yourself, am I really listening? If you want resources, there are very few people who actually talk about what that real listening means. I would refer
The idea
you
behind
to what
Replit
Rick
is
Rubin
that
says
making
about
software
listening. I
today
would
is
refer
very
you to
difficult.
what
We want to
Deepak
make
said
it
about
easier.
listening,
People view
and,
this
what Drucker said
as
about
a
listening
developer in
as some
their
point of
pocket,
view.
essentially.
Amazing.
We have 34
Shreyas, you said
million
you were gonna hang out
users
for the next
globally.
hour somewhere.
There's
You wanna
people
share that real quick,
everywhere
and then we'll
learning
get
to
off?
code on Replit,
Yes, I'll
building
maybe try to
startups,
hang out in the
building
back part of the
personal
room.
software,
Be
personal
quiet back there,
tools.
too.
For
Yeah,
people
okay.
building products, say product
Shreyas,
managers,
thank you so much for
founders,
being
like
here.
what skills do
Great,
you see
thank you.
will matter more, matter less?
Oh,
Typically,
should we
you're
take a picture?
bottlenecked.
Oh, yeah.
where
We're gonna
your
take a
ideas
quick
are not
selfie.
fitting in because
gonna
like
take a
they need to
picture.
be made and they need
There
to
we
be
go.
made
They're gonna turn
quickly.
lights on, I think.
Now
Come on,
you
okay.
open up that bottleneck. So now, like
All right,
actually making
folks.
things is a lot easier. Actually, you become limited.
Thank you so much
by
for listening.
How
If
fast
you
you
found
can
this
generate
valuable,
ideas.
you can
I think
subscribe to the
people
show on
are
Apple
unaware of just how
Podcasts,
far things have
Spotify,
gone.
or
I could
your favorite
imagine,
podcast app.
whatever, 5 years
Also,
from now,
please consider
someone
giving us a
running
rating or
a
leaving a
billion-dollar
review,
company with
as
0
that really
employees,
helps
where
other
it's like the
listeners find the
support is
podcast.
handled by AI,
You can find
the
all past
development is handled by
episodes or
AI,
learn more about the
and you're
show
just
at
building and
lennyspodcast.com.
creating this thing.
See you in
Man,
the
the
next
future is
episode.
wild.
Today, my guest is Amjad Masad. Amjad is the co-founder of Replit, an AI-powered software development and deployment platform for building and shipping software. It's one of the fastest-growing developer communities and AI products in the world. There's a lot of talk these days about how AI is changing how products will be built, how product teams are going to operate, which functions will be more and less valuable over time. But I feel like very few people have actually seen what modern AI tools can do and have fully grasped how much you can get done with very little technical skill now and in the future. And so I'm going to do an experiment with this podcast where I'm going to do a series of behind the product episodes where we go deep on important products that product builders should be aware of and should probably start playing with. In our conversation, Amjad does a demo of what you can do with Replit today, which is going to blow your mind. And then we spend most of the conversation talking about the implications of this on the future of product development, on the future of product management, and on the future of startups and founders. It's a very exciting time. It's also a very scary and destabilizing time for a lot of people. And my thinking is the more you are aware of what's possible today and where things are going, the better position you'll be in to thrive in this very wild and crazy future that is coming very fast. If you enjoy this podcast, don't forget to subscribe and follow it in your favorite podcasting app or YouTube. It's the best way to avoid missing future episodes, and it helps the podcast tremendously. With that, I bring you Amjad Masad. Amjad, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the podcast.
It's my pleasure.
I thought it'd be great to start with just having you explain what is Replit, what's the vision, where is this going, what job does it do for people?
The idea behind Replit is that making software today is very difficult. And we want to make it easier. One of the reasons for the difficulty is that it is very fragmented. So you would need to download what's called an IDE. It's basically a code editor. You need to download the runtime, basically Python or JavaScript. You need to figure out a package manager to configure your kind of open source packages. And once you've done all of that, you need to figure out how to deploy it, how to share it, and so it's a very hard process. And that's one of the ways where people get stuck and never learn how to code, because it just feels like this cumbersome IT process. And so the vision for Replit has always been is like, okay, making software is fun, is great. More people should do it. But so for more people to do it, it needs to be easier to do. It needs to be in one place, and it needs to be learnable. It's easy to learn. And so that's the product today. It is, I think, one of the more easier IDEs / environment / deployment environment on the internet. And I think we make it really easy for people to just jump in, even without prior experience of coding, especially now with the new AI products that we built.
This episode is brought to you by WorkOS. If you're building a SaaS app, at some point your customers will start asking for enterprise features like SAML authentication and skim provisioning. That's where WorkOS comes in, making it fast and painless to add enterprise features to your app. Their APIs are easy to understand so that you can ship quickly and get back to building other features. Today, hundreds of companies are already powered by WorkOS, including ones you probably know, like Vercel, Webflow, and Loom. WorkOS also recently acquired Warrant, the fine-grained authorization service. Warrant's product is based on a groundbreaking authorization system called Zanzibar, which was originally designed for Google to power Google Docs and YouTube. This enables fast authorization checks at enormous scale while maintaining a flexible model that can be adapted to even the most complex use cases. If you're currently looking to build role-based access control or other enterprise features like single sign-on, skim, or user management, you should consider WorkOS. It's a drop-in replacement for Auth0 and supports up to 1 million monthly active users for free. Check it out at workos.com to learn more. That's workos.com. This episode is brought to you by Persona, the adaptable identity platform that helps businesses fight fraud, meet compliance requirements, and build trust. While you're listening to this right now, how do you know that you're really listening to me, Lenny? These days, it's easier than ever for fraudsters to steal PII, faces, and identities. That's where Persona comes in. Persona helps leading companies like LinkedIn, Etsy, and Twilio securely verify individuals and businesses across the world. What sets Persona apart is its configurability. Every company has different needs depending on its industry, use cases, risk tolerance, and user demographics. That's why Persona offers flexible building blocks that allow you to build tailored collection and verification flows that maximize conversion while minimizing risk. Plus, Persona's orchestration tools automate your identity process so that you can fight rapidly shifting fraud and meet new waves of regulation. Whether you're a startup or an enterprise business, Persona has a plan for you. Learn more at withpersona.com/Lenny. Again, that's with persona.com/Lenny. What's the scale of Replit at this point? How large has this gotten? How many people are using it?
We have 34 million users globally. We have a large global presence. There's people everywhere learning to code on Replit, building startups, building personal software, personal tools, or internal tools at companies. More recently, we've been expanding to companies. We released our kind of B2B package in July, and that's been growing really fast. It's been really fun to see people bring Replit to work as well.
Damn, I knew it was popular. I didn't realize it was that large, actually. As I was preparing for this podcast episode, there's this tweet that went viral where this guy, Jevin, who I actually know, I know this guy from Canada, he's awesome, tweeted about how his 11-year-old girl built an app in Replit. She just had an idea and she built it. And the best part of it is someone in the replied to him and they're like you have to launch an app, you have to host it somewhere, you have to build a database, you have to deploy it. There's no way to that. And he's like, no, that's exactly what Replit did.
Yeah, that's what we do. Everything that commenter was talking about. And he's right? Like it's the surprising thing about an 11-year-old building an app is not so much even the coding. It is like all the nonsense around it, and so we just abstract all that away.
I love that, and that's I struggled with that myself when I was an engineer way back in the day.
Oh, you were an engineer. I didn't know that.
I was an engineer for 10 years. I was an engineering manager, and then I jumped ship into product. And
Wow.
I'm happy I did, but I do miss that. I was not an amazing engineer. I was like a good enough startup engineer. So this is the kind of stuff that I would have loved to use. So we're going to jump into a demo of what this actually looks like. I thought maybe actually before we get into it, there's other tools that people are aware of that help you build stuff. And so to kind of put a finer point on like what this does and how it's different from other things you may have heard of, say Cursor comes up a lot these days. Just talk about like a little bit about the competitive landscape of who else is out there that helps you build product.
Again, we go back to this idea of like end-to-end platform for making software. So that's like from writing code all the way to deploying it and monetizing it and all of that. Now, every step in the process of the software development lifecycle, there are a lot of different tools. So Cursor is a fork of VS Code that's made that has really awesome AI tools, but that's an editor. You still need runtime. You still need a deployment environment. Actually, quite a few users use Cursor in tandem with Replit because Replit just simplifies the runtime and deployment environment. And so you have products, AI products, at different places in the software development lifecycle. But really what differentiates Replit is that we do everything. But also, that makes it harder to adopt for certain people. Like if you're at a big company, it's very easy to bring a new editor and start coding with it. It's quite hard to build to bring, something that's quite opinionated about everything, from how the code runs to how the code deploys. But that's the trade-off we're willing to make. It's like, we're not going to get into the enterprise, main software development pipeline, but we want to empower everyone to be able to build software. And that means product managers, designers. We have, operations people, sales ops, HR ops. We have lawyers using Replit. And so it is democratizing the act of software engineering.
Amazing. And that's why you're here. Let's do a demo. While you're pulling it up, you're going to share your screen and show us what this product can do. And the reason I'm excited about doing a demo, and this is an experiment, kind of a new type of podcast episode I'm doing where we're diving into specific products and what they can do. I feel like there's so much talk about AI and what it's doing, and people keep reading about, oh, AI can do this and AI can do that. And I feel like not many people actually like see this stuff in action, especially the most cutting edge stuff. Like I think people are unaware of just how far things have gone and how much is actually possible, especially when someone that knows what they're doing is using the product. So I'm excited to show people what is actually possible, and especially because this is going to impact the future of product management and product teams. So I'll turn it over to you. Give us a demo.
Awesome. So this is Replit's homepage. You can create what's called a REPL, which is a project. We have all sorts of languages you can pick from, really in the hundreds. But most recently, and this is how Replit became like 1,000 times easier, is you can just describe what you want to make. So you go on this homepage, we have this text box, and you can write something like, make me a cool app, or what have you. But a more descriptive prompt is better. And so I asked our PM at Replit, Aman Mathur, who's a fan of the show, to tell me what PMs like to build. And so he came up with a prompt. He kind of really crafted a great prompt. So I'm going to just put it here. And basically, what we're asking for is we want to build a web application. You can say what stack you want to use, or you can leave it up to the AI to decide. Here we're saying, build it in Node.js for product managers to track feature requests on a public dashboard. So say, I have a product I'm growing, I have a community. I want that community to engage with building the product. I want them to submit feature requests, vote on them. I want to be able to manage that. So we're talking here about the features, upvoting system, feature requests.
Read a few of them just for folks that aren't watching on YouTube to give them a sense of some of the stuff in this prompt.
So a feature request submission, so allowing the users to add features. Upvoting system, so allowing users to upvote these feature requests. And status tracking, being able to, it's like a Kanban style board with columns like planned and progress. So that way the admin can kind of share with the community what they're building. And we want it to be user-friendly design, so make it modern and all that nice kind of prompty things. And then admin controls for product manager. So, as a product manager, I want to be able to kind of really manage this community.
I love that it builds internal tools too, not just the front end. That's
Exactly.
awesome. Okay.
Exactly. All right. So we're going to start building. Since this is a pretty big prompt, the initial coding might take a while. There's different styles of using Replit agents. I often go with minimalist prompts. That's also how I code as well. I have a vague idea of what I want to build and iterate from there. Other people, product managers like to write PRDs and more descriptive things. And you can do either of those things. The AI now responded and said, I'll build all of that for you. I'm going to build up the initial prototype and you can tell me how it feels and then we can make it better from there. The AI is also suggesting adding comment threads, implementing email notifications. And so I can select those and, it's being creative. It's telling me what else I could build. But for now, I'm just going to go with a prototype and then we can assess from there. So as you see, as the prototype is starting, you can see this progress pane where we can watch the AI doing its thing. So here it's created a Postgres database. Obviously, when we're building a full stack application, you need to be able to save things. This is one of the cool things about Replit. We have all these services, storage, database. So now it's coding. It's building the database schema. Now it's building the home page. And it's actually quite fun and edifying to watch it build this, because you can really start to learn how to structure web apps. And if it runs into a problem, and as things get complicated, it might run into a problem, and you want to be able to help debug and things like that. It's good to be able to have an idea of what's going on, but it's not necessary. I think a lot of people just don't care about the code and are still able to build things. But we want to make the process transparent. We want to show people exactly what the agent is doing.
You're basically sitting there behind an engineer on a computer and just watching them code is what this experience feels like.
Yeah, and actually the way we built it is like it's a multiplayer system. So Replit is has real time, what we call multiplayer coding. And we reused the multiplayer system to build the agent. So the agent in the code is structured as another user of the platform. So basically, we're both coding together. So I can go into the files here, and that's the thing that makes Replit really cool. I think people are familiar with some of the more chat interfaces, like V0 and others, where it's purely chat. But this is a full IDE where you can go and look at the files and edit them yourself, or ask the AI for an explanation.
What's kind of the limitation of what this can do today? What can't you do? Say you have zero coding experience. What sorts of products can you not yet build with something like this that might be possible in the future? How far does this take you now?
You can build MVPs. I think you can also start to get some initial users. I think when you start iterating on the product, large iterations, you might run into problems. For example, it's not very good at database migrations. And so we're trying to fix that. So, a lot of when you're iterating on the product, a lot of the times you're actually, changing the structure of the app, and that requires database migrations. And so now, it might change the database in a way that creates an error that's unrecoverable. And at that point, you might get stuck, especially if you don't know how to code.
Mm-hmm.
Some people will figure it out by going to ChatGPT and Claude and like asking questions and like I actually am really inspired about how persistent some of our users are, which is really amazing. But I think that's like you'll get to an MVP, past the MVP where it's like a product that's working and you need to change it, iterate on it. It's still a struggle now, but I expect over the next few months we'll continue. It's like if you think about it, it's like sort of we're building. We're building as you're building. So we're building out the agent so that it can continue getting better as our users are also building their applications.
Got it. So what I'm hearing is it's really good at building like the first version and helping you get to something that you can even have people use. It's not amazing yet at evolving from there, like using AI to help you make the product better and better and better and iterate.
Yes.
But you can get in there if you know how to code and take it from there, right?
Yes, or you can hire someone.
Mm-hmm.
We have a feature on the site called Bounties, where you can hire human coders to kind of help you finish your work.
That's going to be our job for humans for like that'll remain for a while.
You know what we want to do? We want to get to a point where the agent can go grab a human when it runs into a problem. I think that would be sick.
Oh my God. It's like everything's reversed. I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, look, I think it might be done. Check that out.
Yeah. So now the agent is asking us, is the application running and showing the homepage?
I like that. I like it's confirming. Like,
so it's almost asking us to do QA. I'll just say yes. So it found an error. So there's an error here. And it's like, there's a DOM warning, I'm going to fix it. So in the meantime, as it's fixing it, so it's, it can be proactive, right? Because it looks at all the errors and things like that. But in the meantime, we can use it. I just created an account. It's coding. Okay.
It's fixing the bug. That's cool.
Restarted. Okay. We'll wait for it.
How long would you say it would take an engineer to build this? Like a typical engineer?
A few days, I would say, to a week. I mean, if you're really good at it, it might be hours, but it probably would take me a few days. I would say I'm like a decent engineer. It'll take me a few days.
Yeah. And it took how much? Like 5-10 minutes.
Yeah. And probably cost us something in the sense.
Wow. In terms of compute.
In terms of compute. Yeah. Probably, I would estimate it at like 15 cents or something like that.
Wow. Okay. So here it is.
Here it is. And the agent was like, okay, this is looking good. Completed it. If you want to deploy it. But I'm like, okay, I'm going to test it first.
And so currently it's living just locally on your local host.
Yeah, it's not localhost. It's on Replit, but yes, it's the equivalent of localhost. Yes. Because it's really easy. I can even invite you to this session, and you can be here with me, and so it's all online.
Got it.
So let's submit a feature. So make the product prettier. That's what a typical user might say. So we have this here. You can upvote it. I guess I can't upvote it because I'm the user that created it. But if you created another user, you can upvote it. But now, we need to be able to move things around, right? As the admin. So I don't know how to log into the admin panel. So I'm going to ask the agent, how do I log into the admin panel? So it might have already built the feature and it's not exposed in the right way. It'll be able to
what I love about just like watching you interact with this thing, and just real quick, I'll throw out, it feels like an engineer like that is behind the scenes building this thing, like on Slack. And you're just talking to them. They built this thing. They're like, check this out. I'm done. And you're like, oh, okay. But how do I log into this admin panel? And they're like, okay, here you go.
Yeah. So it says, it's gonna, would you like me to help you register account? So it's creating an account, an admin account for me. So it not only builds things, it's also it also maintains things, right? So in this case, it's actually doing SQL queries. It's not writing code to create an admin account for us.
It's insane. I want to talk about the implications of this on product development and product management and founders, but just like what we just witnessed is somebody, I know you do have technical abilities, but someone that didn't have to have any technical skill build like a real product that people can use like in 5 minutes that looks good and works. And you could keep making it better by talking to this agent.
Well, I'll tell you from our experience, like what we're seeing. There's so many products that are empowering developers. Like it's a very easy calculation to say we're going to make engineers 20% better, and we're going to like sell it to companies, and we're going to take 10% of that value, right? Like that's why there's so many startups now that are just trying to make engineers a little better. Our calculation is like, well, what if you made everyone developer? Like what does that look like? And so when we released Agent and really made programming a lot easier, what we're seeing is that people, exactly like you said, people view this as a developer in their pocket, essentially. What we're hearing from customers is that I'm doing things I would otherwise have to go hire a developer. But also because the activation energy is lower than going to hire a developer, whether Upwork or other places, I'm building a lot more ideas that otherwise I wouldn't have built. So, it is, I think, what's it called? The Javelin's paradox or something like that, which is like when the cost of things go down, the total consumption of it goes up, which is, I'm not sure why they call it a paradox, but like, the cost of electricity goes down, maybe you would expect that, the total spend goes down, but actually total spend goes up because people consume more of it. And so I think that's going to be the case of software. Like as the costs go down, people will just like make a lot more software to improve their lives and to improve their work and start more startups and all of that.
So to follow that thread, what are you seeing inside of startups or even big companies in terms of how folks are already using this? Knowing this is like the worst it will be, and it will only become smarter and better.
Right.
These days, how are people actually using this, say product managers or just like non-technical people within startups or bigger companies?
On the SMB side of things, a lot of people are building kind of back office tools, right? So we have real estate agents that, have a lot of data, have a lot of things they want to manage in their business. So they're building a lot of these tools that they otherwise would have to buy. But typically when you buy, it's actually not exactly what you need. And that's kind of the problem with SaaS. It's like one size fits all. And so a lot of people are seeing it as sort of a SaaS replacement for in-house tools and things like that. And then when you go to the like bigger companies, it's anywhere from prototyping to actually production apps to tools as well. So we've seen product managers build, like I said, like a V1 of an app and actually go out and test it with users. And I can't name the company, but there's a public company that have used Replit to test a V1 of an app. And obviously after that sort of works, they take it to the engineers and they're like, okay, we built this thing. We think it's a great thing. We tested with some users. Let's go actually put it on the roadmap and build it into the actual product. So you are sort of unblocking product managers from having to need engineers for everything that they want to build. So they can really build the V0 or V1 of the product. And that's super empowering for them. We saw it also with like marketing departments, like Spot Hero has a marketing head of marketing that actually can code decently well, but uses Replit to build his apps. And they built like a competitive analysis application that looks at a competitor's pricing and make sure that they are being benchmarked correctly. And so it's a full stack app. You use database and everything, and it runs in a continuous fashion. And we see sales engineers use Replit to spin up prototypes really quickly. So actually someone at X formerly Twitter, is on the sort of partner engineering side of things, and he uses Replit Agent to spin up applications and prototypes for customers to see how they can use the X API.
I love this. I love these examples. By the way, the demo, is there anything else you want to share about the demo before we close that out?
So it created an admin account.
Yeah.
We can ask it with the username, password, and kind of go into it and manage it. But basically, that's it. It's the app's complete in terms of what we asked for. We can send it out. I can give you a URL. We can let's actually just deploy it really quickly.
Oh, yeah.
Just to show people.
And we
how
could
you
maybe
deploy.
in the show notes, we'll link to the app. You could check it out.
Sounds good.
Okay, cool. That's amazing. So this is deploying it onto some cloud provider. I don't know what you use, but
we use Google Cloud.
Okay,
yeah.
so it's
but
sitting
we abstract all
Right.
of that away from you.
Right.
But we use Google Cloud behind the scenes.
Imagine a place where you can find all your potential customers and get your message in front of them in a cost-efficient way. If you're a B2B business, that place exists, and it's called LinkedIn. LinkedIn Ads allows you to build the right relationships, drive results, and reach your customers in a respectful environment. Two of my portfolio companies, Webflow and Census, are LinkedIn success stories. Census had a 10x increase in pipeline with a LinkedIn startup team. For Webflow, after ramping up on LinkedIn in Q4, they had the highest marketing source revenue quarter to date. With LinkedIn Ads, you'll have direct access to and can build relationships with decision makers, including 950 million members, 180 million senior execs, and over 10 million C-level executives. You'll be able to drive results with targeting and measurement tools built specifically for B2B. In tech, LinkedIn generated 2 to 5x higher return on ad spend than any other social media platforms. Audiences on LinkedIn have 2 times the buying power of the average web audience, and you'll work with a partner who respects the B2B world you operate in. Make B2B marketing everything it can be and get $100 credit on your next campaign. Just go to linkedin.com/podlenny to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/podlenny. Terms and conditions apply. Let's go down this thread actually while this is happening. Just what allows for this to be possible technology-wise? What is the kind of the stack, whatever you can share that enables this to exist?
Yeah, for sure. First of all, it's the all the abstractions that we built. So the way Replit works is, the very bottom layer, it's our runtime. So this is the operating system. This is the package manager. This is the language runtimes. We built a system that is able to install packages in any language, including native packages. So the AI, anytime it needs a package, I can go here and show one of those. By the way, the AI can take screenshots as well, so that it checks it works. So here you can see it's taking screenshots to make sure that the homepage is rendering. Here you can see it wanted a drag and drop library. And so it installed that. And so it has access to all the packages across all languages, including Linux and all of that. And then the layer on top of that is the editor and the infrastructure that runs the editor, including what I described as the multiplier editor. And then we expose all of that infrastructure to the AI. And there's almost like a new discipline called AI computer interfaces. So sort of like HCI is now ACI. And turns out LLMs need interfaces that are actually quite different than humans. They're trying to make them use human interfaces like Anthropic's computer use, but those are really expensive and you need to kind of process all this images and video. So instead we, for the shell, for example, we give it a sort of a text representation of what the shell is doing at a certain increments. For package installation, we give it a certain tool. For editing, we give it an editor tool that when it's writing the code, it's getting feedback on whether there are errors or not, similar to what a human sees, but it's actually old text just to make it easier. So that's AI computer interface. And obviously all of that is sitting on foundation models. So the improvement in foundation models has allowed us to build this. the most important model that we use is the Sonnet model from Claude from Anthropic, and it is the best model at coding. So that's the model we use for coding. But we use models from OpenAI as well, because it's a multi-agent system. And so we have models that are critiquing. We have manager, editor model, and we have like a critique model. And different models will have different powers. We also train some of our models, like the embedding model for search is something we trained internally. So, I actually wrote about it back in like 22. I said it's going to be society of models, like products will be made of a lot of different models. And, it's quite a heavy engineering project.
To say the least.
Yeah.
We were talking offline and you said you've been working on this since 2009 when you first built the first idea of Replit. Is that right?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Here's the deployed app. I can
Beautiful.
send it to you and you can use it. And you can see my request even on the logged out page. So I can register, upvote it, and log in as admin and move things around. We can see what's in progress, what's completed.
Like this looks like a product I could see designers spending like days to, designing, passing it to engineering, PMs, having feedback, engineers taking a few days to build it.
Yes.
And here's just a prompt. Here's what I want.
That's right. And we can iterate on it very easily. We can also iterate on the UI. We can say, I don't like this or that, and it'll do a good job. So we can go here. We can start a new session, or like a new session to create an entirely new feature here, and it'll just do the right thing.
And it builds from that code base. It understands. Here's what you've built.
Yeah.
I want to add this thing.
Yes.
Okay.
And that becomes your sort of your history, right? Like this was the V1, and now I'm working on this new feature, and it's almost like what engineers do in Git commit messages. By the way, it generates Git commit messages for everything that it does, so you can roll back as well. And so we're trying to like make it so that yes, it's for everyone, but we're trying not to abstract too much away. We want to build tools, right, for you to learn to use. And so we want power users to be able to understand the full power of Replit. And it's really deep product. I think you can spend a couple of years to kind of master it.
I want to talk about implications, but I want to come back to something you mentioned that is incredible that people may have missed. You basically built a computer specifically designed for the AI agent to use. That is a different version of a computer specifically optimized for how AI wants to use a computer.
Yeah. So, there's an entire discipline called like HCI, right? Like it's like
human-computer interaction.
Yeah. So now there are papers about AI computer interfaces and interactions. And so, large language models are trained on large text corpus from the internet, but they're still like kind of alien creatures. So they're not like humans. So they have different behaviors. And like, it's unclear, like what's the best way to give it an editor. So there's so many experimentation about like, what's the best way to give it a view on what's editing, how many files can you show it, like, before it starts to hallucinate. And right now it's like more of an art than science, but it's becoming more and more like a science.
This is insane. So it's a simple way to think about it. There's this foundational model. Here's what I want you to build, and here's a computer to use to build it.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, here's a computer with a set of tools. Here's a tool to install a package. Here's a tool to edit the code. Here's a tool to run a SQL query, and also services. Here's a bunch of services you can grab from. Here's a database service. Here's an object store service. Here's an auth service. So you can think about it as a bunch of external services, the computer with a bunch of tools, and they're all interfacing with the foundation model.
It's funny listening to this, how it starts to feel like the fact that we might be living in a simulation is not as far-fetched as it may feel. Like feels like the beginnings of what a simulation computer would be.
Yes. I it's pretty, like, you can go really sci-fi on this, and it's like, where is it headed, right? Like, if we give it enough tools, like, let's say I can drop it in Slack, and instead of interfacing with it in this fashion, I want to interface with it in a totally autonomous way. So we actually have this feature coming up where instead of me testing it, we give it another agent. So here, instead of me interfacing with it and saying, this is running or not running, we can give it another agent that is actually testing the application. And then let's say I interface with it entirely through Slack, and I'll say something like, give me Taylor Swift tickets the moment they land. And so it'll build an app that continuously monitors the web for when Taylor Swift tickets land. And there's like an agent that's using the app to be able to get that. And then and you can imagine it has some kind of wallet or credit card. And then the moment it lands, it kind of gets it. I mean, what I'm trying to say is that software, like agents being able to do software, is how AI gets more general, because software runs our lives, runs the internet, runs our businesses. And so the more competent AI becomes at software, the more general they are in terms of what they can do.
Okay. This can go in so many directions. I'm going to bring us back to the implications for people building products, say product managers, founders. How does this change that function, that skill set? Like, what skills do you see will matter more, matter less? Which functions are maybe in some danger and they should start thinking about a different career path?
One interesting persona that we're seeing is the CEO of a startup, the CEO of Andrew Wilkinson from Tiny is a big user, and so these people are typically creatives, right? They built a company, they hired people. A lot of them like can't code. A lot of them are designers or product managers or something else. And you can imagine a bottleneck. You can imagine a bunch of ideas in their head, and the ideas have to translate through them talking and then someone else listening to them, and like assuming that someone else actually understands what they say, and then that someone else going and trying to build what they want built, and also assuming that person has time, right? Because a lot of times your engineers are kind of stuck building the current thing; they're not thinking about the future thing. And so, what gets me excited is a lot of these CEOs are building the future concept, the next product they're going to build, the next say company they're going to build. And so it unlocks the creativity, and again, sort of unblocks them from that. And look, it's a V1 of the product, but it can push things forward. You can touch it, you can feel it, you can say, okay, this really has legs, and we should work on it. You give it to your engineers, and they can improve on it from there. So that's one persona, but I'm really excited about it. The CEO / founder, in sort of companies. One of the things that I think is sort of hard about tech companies is sort of these silos between designers, product managers, and engineers. And everyone feels that pain of kind of, we have low bandwidth communication, which is language, which then text on Slack and Zoom calls. And it leads to a lot of frustration because it's really easy to misinterpret people. And again, leads to sort of siloing where people working on something, and then you pass it on to the next team, and it's not really what they expect. That happens a lot between designers and engineers. But like the common language that everyone shares is code. right? Like ultimately, in software tech companies, everything that we're talking about need to eventually flush out in terms of code. And so what if the language becomes actually working prototypes and working applications? For example, we have a Figma extension that translate Figma mocks into React that runs on Replit. So instead of giving the engineers just mocks or screenshots, whatever, you just say, oh, here's a bunch of React code, just make sure it runs on our infrastructure, but like don't mess with it, don't move the pixels around, right? And so I think it just like opens up silos of the companies, make communication around product a lot more concrete, because I can give you a working prototype, and that'll change how people work. Like if you can imagine that everyone can make software, it's really kind of a radical reimagining of not just what tech companies are, but really what most companies are, because everyone can be more general.
So say you're a PM listening to this, an engineer, designer. What skills do you think, if you were one of these folks, if you weren't building Replit right now, what kind of skills would you suggest folks focus on more, and which you think are just like, okay, this is going to be less valuable in the future, don't worry about these sorts of things? And you can either pick one of those three functions or all three.
I think a very important skill that's like perhaps harder to develop, but it's worth working on, is being more generative, being able to generate new ideas quickly, because you can think about it as like a factory line, right? Like so you have ideas, you have the production of these ideas, or like the initial kind of production of these ideas, and then you have other people that want to consume these ideas or work with you on these ideas. And so typically you're bottlenecked by the middle kind of part, where your ideas are kind of like, there are a lot of them and they're not fitting in because like they need to be made and they need to be made quickly. And so now you open up that bottleneck. So now like actually making things is a lot easier. Actually, you become limited by how fast you can generate ideas. And so I find that true of myself as well. Like, I consider myself quite generative, but now I have this tool and I can like build a lot more and explore a lot more. And I'm finding that actually I'm running out of ideas sometimes. and so training that muscle, I think is a good thing. I think like learning a little bit of coding, and like not the traditional way of learning coding. Like when you go, if you go to like a coding boot camp, they're going to start with like, what is Git? Actually, my co-founder, Hayo, was a designer. When we were first building Replit together, she went to WebAssembly to do like a coding course. And the first day, they were like, spent this whole time on Git. And she's like, what is that? Like, what does it do? Like, I'm like, I still don't know what Git exactly does, but it's like you're inverting the process, like you're giving the tool before the actual problem. And so I think all of that stuff you don't have to worry about. So things that you don't have to worry about, I think a lot of the, as a PM, as a designer, as someone who's not like in your code editor every day, don't worry about all the tooling. And if you learn a little bit of coding just by, talking to an AI, doing a little bit of debugging, building something with Replit, running into a problem and trying to fix it, just using AI, you'll learn a bit of coding. And, I have this that's been called, not by me, dubbed as Amjad's Law, which is the return on investment for learning code is doubling every 6 months. And really just learning a little bit of that skill, learning a bit of skill about how to, prompt AI, how to read code and be able to debug it. Every 6 months, that's netting you more and more power, because you're going to be able to create a lot more. It's going to be easier to create. You're going to be able to create a lot, a lot more complete things. So that's another skill that I think could be necessary.
This is super interesting. Okay, so this last point you made, Amjad's law, it's interesting because when people, like, as someone's listening to this, I could see them being like, engineers are in trouble. Why do you need engineers at this point? These agents are building the code. Your point is specific engineering skills are going to be incredibly valuable and more valuable. How often are they doubling? Would you say every year? You said
no. Every 6 months.
Every 6 months, these specific engineering skills are becoming more valuable.
Yes.
And the idea is this: you don't need to like know everything. You don't need to know the foundation, like to build the app as much. It's more to unblock the agent and understand the mental model of how this stuff is built, so that you can move forward fast.
That's right. Understanding the basic components of it, I would say.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it's like we need new engineering schools to teach you these very specific skills.
Yes.
Versus spending years on like algorithms and
I think no one has done that yet.
Right.
And I think this is like a big business probably ready like to get built. It's like AI native coding. It's totally different than like traditional coding.
Yeah.
That's why on Hacker News, there's so much skepticism about like AI native coding tools, because they're like, yeah, it's a glorified autocomplete. And I understand, like, if you're, writing operating system kernels, it's not really doing that much for you. But if you're building product, it's building it for you at this point, right? And so, if you're starting a school to teach AI native coding, you would skip so much of computer science and the basic tools, and you would teach the basic idea of how to structure an app, and then you would teach prompting, and then you would teach, I think, a little bit of debugging. I think debugging is quite a good skill right now to learn.
And interestingly, if you want to be good at debugging, there's a lot you need to understand, which is basically what you're saying is like, that's the subset of things to understand, is things that break. And to do that, you have to understand how it all works. What are servers, what are APIs, all these things. Okay. So we've been talking about how this is very good right now at building a prototype, building a V1, MVP, people can use it, you can deploy it, you deploy this app, people can start using it. And there's like a scale it can reach. Do you see a future where you can build like a Salesforce sized business, fully Replit or other tools that can scale to hundreds of billions of dollars of value? Or is there just going to always be some limit of like, you need like actual engineers and designers sitting on this thing, building it, making it awesome?
If like my law is like, directionally correct, even if the months are not exactly correct, the duration is correct, you're going to see a compounding effect of the power. Like, it's actually quite hard to convince yourself. But if you really convince yourself that we are on a massive scale of improvement in AI, then the answer is yes. And it's like absurd to my engineering mind that I'm saying this. But, Ray Kurzweil, this like, futurist, talks about how exponentials are really hard for humans to grasp. And so actually, when we started building the agent, I told the team, it's easy, and we've fallen in this trap before, it's easy to build and optimize for today. In 22, we built like, Copilot-like thing and autocomplete. We trained our own models. We optimized the hell out of them. But at some point, like, that modality was kind of, not the right modality, which is like the autocomplete modality. And the right modality is actually this, I think, for now, is being able to chat inside the programming environment and for the agent to create things for you. But in order for us to make that bet, a year ago, the models were actually not there. Like, the models could not do this. But we were like, okay, we're going to build for the models that are landing in 6 months. And it truly, like, 6 months later, the models started to land that are capable of this. the reasoning that we need and whatever. And so that was like, Sonnet V1, which is, oh, wow, like we switched to it and the reasoning improved so much. And 6 months later, you have Sonnet V2. And so it's really almost like a 6 months cadence. And so if we're really on this trajectory, then I would say, next year you're able to scale, and maybe you get, thousands of users paying you. The AI can do maintenance. We already showed the AI doing like SQL queries and doing migrations. So the AI will be able to do maintenance, debugging, things like that. I think where it gets really tough is that, when you're hitting scale and you want to architect a system that is resilient. And so that means, you would start, sharding databases, and you would start like using different queue systems and components and things like that. And I think, the AI needs to have access to the entire suite of tools to be able to do this. And I think that's going to be the next bottleneck. And I think the AI needs to be a lot more reliable at doing that. But I could imagine, like, 5 years from now, someone running, $1 billion company with 0 employees, where it's like the support is handled by AI, the development is handled by AI, and you're just building and creating this thing that is, that people are finding valuable and are paying you for it. That being said, it's worth like thinking about the economics of it. Like if the cost of software goes down a lot, like then what is the price that you can charge on software, right? So can you actually build the next Salesforce, if anyone can generate Salesforce? And then the question is like, what is the, and this is why I emphasize being generative, because I think then the thing that will make you better is like by being able to iterate and improve the thing really quickly and generate new ideas.
And stay ahead of all the other people building
Yes.
these tools so quickly.
Yeah.
Oh my God. An interesting other kind of mental model I'm seeing as you talk about this sort of thing is, not to offend religious folks, but there's this concept of God of the gaps. I imagine you've heard that.
Yes.
Where it's like God explains all the things that we don't yet understand. And over time, that kind of space shrinks, and God's like, all the things we don't get yet, those gaps, that was God. That's
Right.
what that proves there needs to be a God. And it feels like right now humans are like the gaps in these tools.
Yes.
Where these agents you talk about that you can hire
Yeah.
within Replit are like fixing these little gaps. And over time, AI will fix these things themselves.
That's right.
And these gaps will shrink.
I mean, unless we hit some fundamental limit in the current regime of AI, which I'm not an expert about like how far transformers could scale, but I feel like it is, we found the thing that could scale pretty far, but maybe there are limitations in data or other things like that we could be surprised by. But if there isn't, then we are on a massive trajectory of removing these gaps quickly.
Yeah, very true. We have no idea. We keep thinking it's just going to keep going, but maybe it'll stop at some point. I could keep going and going, but I think we should also let people go play with these things and process all the things we've been talking about. Is there anything else that you think might be helpful for folks to think about or learn or study?
I'll give advice to sort of founders or leaders at companies. The way we work is going to change rapidly, and it's important to be sort of resilient to that change. One thing that I think is really difficult now is having roadmaps, especially if you're doing anything in AI, but really anything that AI could affect. You want to be able to react to it really quickly. And so, when the Anthropic dropped the computer use sort of capability, we slotted in our roadmap because we don't really have an explicit roadmap. We like immediately jumped on it and started building things, and we launched some things around it. We're going to be doing more with it. But like, there's going to be capabilities that are going to drop, and you want to really, in some cases, if it really affects your business, you want to be able to jump on it really, really quickly. So being agile, not being sort of stuck with roadmaps, being able to kind of just say, oh, we're just gonna switch priorities right away, is going to be super important. Not being, like I said, with silos. At Replit, there's so many people that are on the scale of like, designer to engineer, designer to product manager. Actually, I mentioned Aman earlier. He started as a designer at Replit and now as a product manager. We have people who start as designers, become engineers. And we have people in the middle, and we're comfortable with that, like design engineers, and that fit at different parts of the scale. And the design engineers go to the design curate meetings, and some designers go to the engineering meetings. And you got to be fluid, right? Because again, when designers can code and engineers can design, I mean, it's really becomes you can't have a lot of structure around that. So you want to build a culture, and you want to build an environment or milieu that is like really, really flexible, which is uncomfortable for a lot of people.
Man, the future is wild. everyone's a hybrid person now. Let me just actually double down on what you just said, which I think is really interesting. It's almost like if you're an engineer, where your skill set will become most valuable is unblocking these AI tools and knowing debugging and figuring out how to allow it to go further and further and further. Within PM and design land, based on what you're describing, where the skills will become more valuable is generating ideas, almost like finding opportunities, discovery, finding what problems need to be solved, and then articulating that as clearly as possible to the AI tooling.
That's right.
Super interesting.
This is a very crisp sort of advice that people can follow today, I think.
Oh man, what a world. Okay, Amjad, this is incredible. My mind is racing. I've got to go build some apps immediately.
Give us feedback. Love that.
I will do that. So just to leave listeners with a couple things. One is just, what should they know? Where do they find you? How do they try Replit? Anything else other than just going to replit.com?
Yeah, just go to replit.com. It's an open beta right now. We're kind of quickly improving and going to exit beta, I think, in a few weeks. But if you're comfortable testing something that's like not perfect, go to replit.com. If you subscribe to our core plan, you should be able to access the agent and start using it. And we are, I think the place where we're most active is Twitter. So Twitter, or like X, the handle Replit, REPLIT, or my handle, Masad.
Oh yeah. One other thing I wanted to make sure we had a chance to touch on is you're working on something new, something that's coming in the very near future, maybe the day this episode drops. Talk about that.
All right. So depending on when the episode is coming out, this could be the first time people hear about it. But we have this product called Agent. It is sort of high agency. It does everything from setting up the project and all of that, right? And so now we're working on Assistant. So Assistant is like, let's say the cousin of Agent. It is a little less powerful, but a lot more controllable. So you can like focus on features or areas of the code that you want to change, and you still don't have to know how to code, but it is a lot more manageable and it is a lot faster. So you saw how it took some time to kind of create the project and code some of the things. Assistant is in the order of milliseconds and seconds to be able to respond to you. And so again, as I talk about the idea of tools, we want people to have as much power and autonomy as possible. And so there are certain instances where Agent is the best. It's going to do the debugging for you. It's going to create the database for you. But if you want more control, Assistant is going to give you that.
Just so folks totally understand what this is going to do for them, what's like the mental model for what this is like if it's like a person helping you out?
Agent is like having a developer work. You give them the PRD, right, and they're going to go and build the thing. Assistant is like you're sitting next to them. So they built the thing. and now you walk over to their desk and you say, let me move this button three pixel to the left. Let me change this thing. So like small increments of changes that you want happen really quickly and you want it reliably, that will give you that. So it's just like much faster iteration on UI and things like that.
Incredible. The future is wild. Final question I always ask everybody: how can listeners be useful to you?
Come work at Replit.
Same word.
We have a PM role, I think, up if you're product manager. We're hiring engineers and product managers. So come work at Replit or refer someone to Replit, especially if you're like our tools and you want them to get better. The best way to do that is to get us great people we can hire.
Well, you're about to get a flood of product managers applying.
Amazing. I love
good
that.
luck. Amjad, thank you so much for being here. This was incredible.
Thank you for your podcast and the community that you built and newsletter and everything. It's been awesome to watch.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. If you found this valuable, you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. Also, please consider giving us a rating or leaving a review, as that really helps other listeners find the podcast. You can find all past episodes or learn more about the show at lennyspodcast.com. See you in the next episode.